Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 234. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. I am Lord Deathman, so says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin, and the Duke of Actually, it's Mighty Lord Deathman.
Mighty Lord Deathman. Get it right.
That name just makes me laugh. We're talking on this episode with, from Comic Timing, Brent Cassina and Ian Levinstein, about Batman Inc. #1. We're also going to be talking on this episode about Batman 704, Batwoman #0. We have listener voicemails from November and the kickoff of December. A lot of content on this. Actually, this will be our last voicemail catch-up, and then we'll be back on track with voicemails. So, yay, great stuff. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, you can pick up Batwoman #1 at a special discount. This is written by J.H. Williams III with W. Hayden Blackman, art and cover by J.H. Williams III, and a variant cover by Amy Reeder. This book is regularly $2.99, 50% off only $1.49. I actually want to note that they're repeating this month the 45% off discount on all major publishers. And I think this is in honor of that $2.99 deal that they're doing now in a lot of the companies, is a way to kind of just drum up interest for people who are like, wow, this is really great, now I'm saving money. Now you're going to save even more for the next couple months. So it's really cool. I'm glad that they did it last month, and now they're doing it again this month. So that's 2 months in a row, 45% off all major publishers. This is the time to try out some of those new books. So definitely check that out. But Batwoman #1, that's a book that I'm really excited about. We're actually talking this episode about Batwoman #0. So it's a great time to make a decision if this is the book for you. Thank you, DCBService.com, for those great pre-order discounts. Over at InStockTrades.com, I'm a big fan of Batman Confidential. And one of the things that I really like about it is there are these really cool contained arcs that you can read and pick up and enjoy. And, they're out of continuity. They got their own storylines going on. This is the Dead to Rights trade paperback. It collects issues 22 to 25 and 29 to 30. And those are two arcs that go together thematically. Written by Andrew Kreisberg, artist Scott McDaniel and Andy Owens. 144 pages. It's regularly $14.99, 38% off only $9.29. How does capturing and jailing supercriminals like the Joker impact the Gotham City Police Department? And how far will one officer go when faced with new threats to his city? Find out in this title, and it's very cool, Batman Confidential. If you haven't been picking it up, this is a great way to read it because you're getting the whole arc together. It's a complete contained story, and it's cool for fans that are looking for this little bit of a breather from all the continuity going on and stuff like that. And this was a really particularly good story that I thought it was worth noting if you missed it. Thank you, InStockTrades.com, for continuing to support the show. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. I want to remind everyone to check out the Hero Initiative. That's heroinitiative.org. This is helping yesterday's creators who are in need today. I'm a member. I'm actually going to be renewing quite soon for this upcoming year. And the Hero Initiative is something I firmly believe in. And whether you're going to do a membership or just a donation, the cost of a comic book, if we're all periodically doing that, just helps out people. And, we've got a great listening audience here. And, our podcast we provide is free. So please consider donating to the Hero Initiative and helping out the creators that really laid the groundwork and the foundation for the great books that we're reading today. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we go over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Raging Bullets Podcast. You like comics, you like free, you like us.
Jim, our first chat this episode is going to be first in a series where we're going to be taking a look at all of the Batman titles over the next month or so. Just kind of individually dissecting them. Then at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to have a special segment where we're going to talk about what our favorite Bruce book is, our favorite Dick Grayson book is, and then overall, what was our favorite Batman title out of those batches. So it'll be kind of a fun way, and to see, if you and I have the same opinions. So we're just going to kind of do these like we normally do right now, and not tell each other at the end which one our favorite one was until we get to the end of the whole cycle.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll probably look at, we'll pull out different things. I'll pull out the right one, you'll pull out the wrong one.
Well, we did find, I thought this was interesting, though, because we did find when the Dick Grayson thing kicked off that you and I had different favorites.
Yeah.
Out of the two. I was enjoying the Morrison book slightly more, and you were enjoying the Tony Daniel book slightly more. So it was fun to kind of go through that exploration. So we're going to do it again with this, especially with how many Batman books there are right
we got
now.
a lot to choose from.
You know, actually, let's talk about that at the moment. We've seen the release of quite a few Batman books. We've had Batman Inc., Batman and Robin, Batman, Streets of Gotham. Are you finding, as you're going through this, that you're feeling that there's too many Batman books? Is that an issue that you're having at the moment? Reading them. I'm talking about actually now that we're physically able to start reading them.
For me, no. I enjoy, a good story. So
Right.
if they were doing the same deal with, say Wonder Woman or Superman, as long as they're giving me a good story, I'm enjoying it. And to be honest, I always like to have more, giving me more of a picture of what Gotham looks like. I'm getting a really good, solid look at the different nuances that is Gotham City throughout all of these titles.
Well, in and out of
really
Gotham,
enjoying
because
it.
they don't all take place in
Right.
Gotham. So I'm actually really liking that aspect too. My worry was a small worry, was that they weren't going to be unique enough that I was going to go, wow, these are basically reading the same books. I totally, and we had Detective Comics, that came out as well. So we've had quite a few Batman books come out so far, and I will say that my experience so far has been I've been so pleasantly surprised at how they all capture what I like about Batman. But they're all different, which I hope you said for you. I'm hoping not, because for me, I could give me more Batman as long as they're good, well done, well crafted stories with great art. I'm on board, and I've felt that with this. I do like the unique nature of each one because I think that's going to help because they're not interconnected. You don't have to be reading all of them. They do interconnect with this Batman Inc. theme. I'm hoping for people that are on a budget that are going, I can't pick up all of them. If they like Bruce, they can read the Bruce books. I'm hoping if they like Dick, they're reading the Dick books. If they want to read one of each, one Bruce Wayne, one Dick Grayson book, they can pick their favorite creative team, and that's working out that way. I liked that back when Dick Grayson was Batman because I felt that firmly you could read Morrison's book, you could be reading Streets, you could be reading Detective, or you could be reading Batman, and they weren't interconnected. That's my preference, because I do think that helps out people on a budget. I would love from our listeners right now, if you're reading the Batman books, how are you enjoying them so far? Are you reading all of them? Did you just pick some? Do you have a favorite creative team or somebody that you were like, wow, I wasn't going to get this book, but I ended up deciding grabbing this one because I loved what, I saw in preview art or something like that. What was it that drew you in, and what books are you reading and why? Because I would actually be just as curious of people who are enjoying all of them. People who decided to pick and choose, how did you make that choice, and how is it working for you? Because I can't comment on that experience. I think it would work, though.
And it's interesting because before this got started, in the back of my head, I was thinking maybe I would not get all of the Bat books because I was, looking at budget, and I was thinking like maybe this will be my time when I drop some books, and I'll just focus on like this. You're laughing because that's not how it actually is playing out.
What made you change your? No, I'm actually laughing because my honest question is, what did make you change your mind?
Because each of the individual titles has a faction of it that has me really into it. There's that thing, that individual unique flavor about it that keeps me going to it. I want to read what happens here. I want to read this, and it just, each book has the, I want to know blank. And it's that blank that I want to know that keeps me reading that title. It's that unique feel that you mentioned. These books, not only for me, have a unique feel to them, they all have that draw in. And, when I look at like something that's on the chopping block, it's something that I'm like, okay, it's good, but can I do without it? Do I really need? Will it hurt me if I don't learn the final story? No, that's what gets rid of these. I'm like, I gotta know the X factor behind it. I gotta know the whatnot behind the book, the end game, and then seeing and the writing is even when we get to an end game, there's the setup to the next one. I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. I want to read that one now. So it's that. There's just that little bit that's keeping me hooked into them, and it's I'm really digging the Bat universe and all of these titles now.
They changed up the creative teams at the right time. I mean, they kept some of the creative writers and everything involved still. We still got Dini, we've still got people like Tony Daniel, we've still got obviously Grant Morrison involved, but they also added in Scott Snyder and people like that into this mix, and it's working. I'm really digging what they're doing right
definitely.
now. And I honestly think a major reason why I'm enjoying it so much is that each one is so fresh. Like when you read the stories, and we got Paul Cornell writing on Batman and Robin. I don't know did you expect that differently? Like I thought that was going to be kicking off with Peter Tomasi because I knew he was announced as new creative writer on that book. And I knew Cornell was doing a fill-in for a few issues, but I thought that meant that Tomasi was kicking off and Cornell would kick in. I'm not complaining because Cornell's writing is very good, but that shocked me when I saw Cornell's name on the cover. I'm like, really? I mean, I'm like, great, Cornell. Okay, cool. Let's read. But I mean, that was interesting to me to see that going. Let's go ahead and kick right into Batman right now. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to do like a little quick overview chat of all this because we haven't really talked Inc. at all, other than we had the interview with David Barron last episode. Yeah. So, all right. This issue 704 is written and illustrated with cover by Tony S. Daniel, colored by Ian Hannon, Hannin, lettered by Jared K. Fletcher, associate editor Janelle Siegel, editor is Mike Martz, and Batman created, of course, by Bob Kane. And let's talk about that cover. I'm going to say one of the things that I've really enjoyed about Tony Daniel's work ever since he came on to the Bat books has been his rendition of Batman, of action sequences. The arrows going into Dick Grayson's Batman, and just the look of determination on his face. And I'm a sucker for ninja stories. And anytime you've got something like that, because for me, what is it I like about Batman? I love the fact that the whole concept's been it's a man who trained himself to be a fighter. It's mental and physical training that he's gone through. But I like seeing that. I love the world's greatest detective, but I also love the fact that, because I think the martial arts are a very intelligent fighting system. So, where you've got to really sit there and pick and choose moves and body parts, and it's strategic fighting. Yeah. I get into that. So when I see this on the cover, I'm like, okay, right away you have me. Because it's every beat that I'm really digging about this. And this was really a great cover. I know you're a big fan of his artwork as well.
Oh, big time. And I really am so happy just with the look, the feel, just the general vibe that's coming from Batman title, that I was just like, yes, more please. And just talking about beautiful artwork, it's that action sequence, the flow through as you're sitting there watching it, and you get this, and you can kind of, like, in my head, it's flowing out. It's in a way, it's kind of 3D in my mind. I can see them coming in, I can visualize the before scene and the after scene to what I'm actually looking at, kind of with his. And there's a couple artists where I can really, I really see that. And it's just the way they, do the emotion for me for some reason.
This is one of two books, well, actually three if you include Batwoman, which we're going to talk about Batwoman separately. But as we're analyzing these Batman titles, the ones, David Finch is doing Dark Knight, where he's the writer-artist, and Tony Daniel is doing this for writer-artist. I wonder if they're going to have, at some point in time in these runs, fill-ins issues. I mean, they almost have to, right? If not, I'm incredibly impressed that they're doing this. Because to me, my respect level for writers putting together scripts for comics is through the roof. My respect level for pencilers, colorists, everybody involved in the process, in what they put in a month to get these books out. To try and do two jobs on any book is, to me,
he does three, because he's a writer, pencil, inker.
Oh, good point, yeah.
So he's doing three on this. And honestly, I would think I don't want to say easier, because that would make it sound like it's easy, because it's not. But I think it would be, depending on your personality, if you're doing everything, he may be actually drawing as he's writing. So he may have, like, the rough sketches, and as he's writing a story, kind of doing it that way, instead of sit down.
You mean have it storyboarded?
Yeah, just doing it pure like that, instead of write a full script, then the pencils and the inks and all that, just as he's going through. So it could be how he's, handling this. That's a guess.
Except, I agree with you in the sense that would make an interesting creative process. I don't know that I would agree that that's simpler. Here, let me tell you why. Here's where the issue is. I would imagine that if you haven't done a full script ahead of time, which I'm kind of assuming that he's done, like, at least if not a full script, a 3/4 length script, where it's pretty much so all of it is in place, because you'd have a lot of erasing and a lot of this panel's not going to work now with how I'm changing this. You almost have to have that all pretty heavily laid out before you're going to go to drawing in order to do that. I'd be very curious to read something on his process. There's probably been interviews done. I'll have to take a look on the internet to see what it looks like, because he's done this, obviously, in the last run as well. I would love to see what goes through that process or how that works for a writer artist, because that's got to be very interesting. And I would honestly say that's it probably simplifies some things, but creates new challenges, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. In the case like that, I love the process, though, and I think he's just doing an incredible job. My respect level for him as a writer, I loved the whole Black Mask story with that whole reveal of who Black Mask was. I loved following the mystery. So ever since he did that story arc, I just, this totally kicks in with this mystery right in the beginning from the outskirts of Gotham, where we've got these guys talking on the phone about this this long, ancient secret that's obviously been handed down through generations and generations through the secret society. And I love that we don't know who the players are, but it's really clear from the get-go that there's more than one faction. And by the end of the story, I'm not convinced that two factions is even straight.
Oh, God, no.
There appears to be maybe possibly even a third that's taking place in all this. I love this concept of ancient societies, and this somehow looks like it ties into Ra's al Ghul on some level with the Sensei being involved, unless the Sensei's a free agent now. Character I was very shocked to see was still alive. Yeah, because our last exposure with the Sensei was that he's not here.
Yeah, well, I was glad to see him. One Sensei to another, my brother. But
are you as crazy as him? Because at the end, I'm
convinced. Hold on. Yeah. You asked that question.
Yeah, well, dude, this is how crazy I think he is at the end of that issue.
Oh, I'm not that bad yet.
But imagine knowing, this guy's family, they're going through this whole story where it looks like he's agreeing to everything that he's agreeing to protect his family.
Yeah.
And agreeing to basically be killed himself and leave a suicide note. But by the end, the tragedy of all this is that his family's already dead.
Yeah.
And it's not a suicide note, it's he murdered his family.
They did the murder
and it's jumping out the window.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, whoa. I did not see that coming at all.
You know what? I was kind of suspecting. I was like, "There's no way this guy's getting off. There's no way." And
I knew he was dying. Don't take me wrong there. I'm talking about at the end we got to that shocking part where the family was already dead. I'm like, well, yeah, of course it makes sense. No loose ends. And what did he told the family previously and things like that? But that was the part. Did you see that coming?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. When I say the guy's not getting off, I mean he's not getting anything out of the deal. He thought this was the deal that, hey, I'll help you out. I'll betray, the coven, and you let my family live. And I'm thinking, there's no way it's going to happen. I would have been shocked if the family had lived, personally, just because you see so many stuff with these secret societies, and this is some huge, big secret that's going down. That there's no way that you can let anybody live in this. That's just been kind of a given standard. Now, the the second double cross that comes later, that one surprised me. That one, I was surprised to see that one, and I was like, oh, cool. What's going to happen now with this kind of deal? So that was a neat thing, because I saw the one thing coming. I'm like, okay, yeah, I saw that coming. Then the next thing, I get the kneecapped. I was like, oh, nice. That's just part of the cool parts of a good mystery story.
I'll tell you one of the big problems I've had as I've been reading these Batman books and trying to determine which ones are my favorites. As I reread them, I've got in my mind one or two that I'm like, okay, these are my current top runners. Then I'll reread something like this, because this wasn't one of the ones that I would originally have said was one of my top runners, but then I'll read this and I'm like, wow, is this really good? And I like that that's the problem I'm having. This is going to be a very interesting conversation at the end when we've done each of the books on our show, because that's the part where it's going to be very difficult to try and figure out, because you've been trying to figure out which is your favorite.
Yes, and I literally, it's whichever issue's in my hand is my favorite.
I'm having that too.
There's a couple that are a top runner, and there's a couple that they have that thing that has me latched in. These other titles will have multiple things that'll have me latched in. So,
well, this is up against, for example, the Detective Comics we talked about last week, which is to me just mind blowing. Then we've got this book, which I think is just as great. I mean, it's very interesting to see the top quality Bat books that are being put out. And I love that. I mean, that to me says a lot about the state of comics right now, that we're getting these type of quality books. It's one of the reasons why I started with the discussion I did at the beginning of all this with the Bat books. This rooftop sequence with Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne, I love this when it's done right in the Batman films. When we saw Bruce when he was training in Batman Begins, and he was wearing that Nomex survival suit for the first time, and running around and went to Gordon's office and then was escaping from Gordon's office and stuff like that. Jumping to the fire escapes, and we got to see those moments. I loved that aspect of that. And seeing that, again, these sequences with the two of them, and the joking, where you never lose Damian's attitude. He never loses that little... I don't want to say edge with him. It's attitude. It really is attitude. I'm going to go right back to that. It is the little kid's got a little attitude where you kind of want to smack him in the head, but yet you love him now. Yeah. I really like this kid now.
Oh, definitely. And these sequences, this whole chase sequence where we don't know who they're chasing, but we eventually get that reveal in that great 2-page spread. These were the stuff I was talking about where I can, in my mind, picture the scenes before and after. And part of it is because of what you mentioned exactly with Batman Begins, when we see Bruce was first before he became Batman, when he did that whole Gordon sequence and he's running through and all that. And it's stuff like that I've seen movies like that. I've seen some really cool Jackie Chan movies and those the Jason Bourne movies where they have those great run chase scenes. So in my head, I already have some basic stuff. So when you get these images right in front of you, it's easy to fit them in. It's easy to fit the flow through, and you can actually kind of just in your mind see them as they're running through the rooftops. They got the little banter going back and forth, and then bam, we get that awesome 2-page spread where we see who they're chasing and we see the Reaper. And I was just like, dang, this was a nice opening.
Just as important, too, is Katrina Falcone, who it was great to see her back in this. And this kind of goes back to, this is a continuation of the Batman run that Tony Daniel's been working with. This is a character that he had in that run previously. We got to see her birth in this book. Glad to see her back again in this book. And the question is now, she's been trained by Selina. Selena's acting like, that they aren't really together, but they are. Yeah. And I get it. Selena's looking at, we got this girl on the streets. I see a lot of me in her. I have an opportunity to hopefully set her on the right path. Yeah. If I guide her a little bit. I agree with what Selena's doing. And I like her strength in the sense that, okay, Bruce may be back. You may be Batman too. I may be a part of the side of the Angels, trying to do my part in there, but yet I'm not 100%, in your little camp. I've got my own things that I need to do. I can't look at a kid like this, and because you say we need to take her off the streets, that's what I'm going to do, because she won't agree to that. And that's really what Selena's seeing. I actually agree with Selena's philosophy on this, even though she's not really vocalizing it. Her attitude is, if it were me, and they told me to get shut down. Well, Spoiler is a great example of this. This is another example of what happened with Spoiler, and Selena's seeing the big picture and knowing this kid's going to be out there anyway. So it's like, let's just stay away from Batman, stay under the radar, and everything's going to be okay right now. And you're going to want to stay, especially what's currently going on, you're just going to want to stay off the streets for right now. I'm going to be curious to see whether or not Katrina actually follows that during this arc.
No, she's not going to. But it's funny because we're talking about how they don't control Selena. It's the old saying with cats: you don't own a cat. The cat's not your pet. You're its pet. And this is, with the real life cats, where, because you've seen it with your cats, they're not like dogs where you go fetch and bring it back here. They have their own unique personalities, and they have that unique strength to them, and that's one of the things I dig about cats. And we're seeing, and it's kind of funny because when we're seeing that with Selena, it's again that whole feline mystique kind of personality that she has going for her.
During this whole fight, we see that Katrina's doing these things because of the rewards, bounties and things like that, trying to, bring these villains in for her own purposes. Do you think she is operating on the side of the Angels, or is she a gray area in the middle with that reveal right there?
I say she's a green area. She's just.
Oh, yeah. That's such a great way of putting it. And amen. I agree with you on that.
It's all about the dollar bills. It's all about the money, and I really think that she's not going villain because she's got Catwoman training her, and because of everything with Catwoman, she knows I can't go full villain, but I can do this. And it's kind of a deal like that, and I think she has a potential to be on the side of the Angels, but there's also that very equal chance for her to go full villain. Not full villain, because I don't see her as the torture, conquer the world, kill innocent people for fun of it. She can go full on thief. You know, a true thief doesn't want to kill people. They just want the money. They want to take what's the easiest way for me to get in and out with the money. Boom. And that's where I kind of see her heading towards, kind of. You know, she's right now doing the bounty hunter thing. She's doing, you know, this, but I could see her being the breaking in, doing the original Catwoman style, where it's, you know, hey, makes a little bit of money, I'm happy, good to go.
One of the things I always liked about Dick Grayson as Nightwing was the adventure aspect of Nightwing. The stories got dark. There were, you know, moments where Dick got dark along with them, but at its height, you would see these Dick Grayson moments like what we see here with the grappling gun, where it shoots through the arm of the Reaper, and he, you know, makes this comment about that was totally a Bruce move.
Yeah.
But then he comes back with the Grayson finish, and it's like he's enjoying what he's doing. And it's been, whether it's directly commented on in the book by people watching, or it's something that you see in the actions of Dick Grayson as Batman, I really love the distinction between his Batman and Bruce's Batman. Yes. That's what's working with me on there being two of them, is that it really feels very different. You can tell who's behind the cowl. And even though Bruce is, you know, kind of a brighter Batman than he's been in the past with his return, it's still Bruce. And I mean, there's a drastic, sharp distinction, you know, in Bruce's way of tactically operating, and, you know, when do you crack a smile and when do you not as Bruce, which is 90% of the time you don't.
Yeah. It's the intensity that Bruce brings.
Intensity is a great word for it. Amen. And this moment is just something that I really, really enjoyed. I didn't expect to see Bruce in this book. I don't know why. I felt really dumb when he was there. I'm like, wow, well, this is a great moment. I'm thrilled to see it. Because I love this. I actually really love the Bruce costume, the new one, the redesign. And it's consistent that I love it no matter which artist is drawing it, because we've seen a lot of renditions of this now. And Tony Daniel does a really bang-up job on seeing that.
Yeah.
You know, it's time we've talked. And this is where Bruce reveals to him that this girl needs to be taken out. She needs to be stopped.
There, you know, you can't. You know, you run Gotham. Catwoman doesn't. I love that kind of line, and that mindset. But it's not only the thing I thought was cool is Bruce didn't say we run. He's like, you run it. This is your town, you know, and just you take command of this. And I thought that was a kind of a cool dealings where it's not just the traditional Bruce Wayne saying, you know, okay, you know, I have to do everything. No, he knows Dick Grayson can get the job done, and he knows Dick's going to do it his style, his flair, but there has to be that that definite we need to get this taken care of.
There's an important distinction to this line, though. I love this. Selina doesn't run Gotham. You do while I'm away. You know, which that had to, and he didn't emphasize the I'm like I am while I'm away. You know, it's just very, you know, but that's proof that Bruce still considers himself in charge of Gotham.
Well, yeah.
You know, Dick is the Batman of Gotham, while Bruce has got this Batman Inc. mission, which sounds like this Batman Inc. thing is going to be an interesting ongoing thing. We're going to talk about that later in the episode when we do our segment on Batman Inc. #1, as far as our feelings on the whole concept of Batman Inc. But that moment I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. And Bruce is still in command. Yeah. There is a definite chain of command, but there is the trust, you know, and it's not, you know, Bruce isn't a micromanager. He's not going to be there, and it's, you know, Dick's going to have to take care of this. And I think that, for me, is there is that definite distinction, but there is that definite level of trust and equality between the two Batmen.
The face-to-face between the two of them had a great art distinction. It's something I really liked, in the sense that you see that Dick's a little bit smaller than Bruce, but the same determination on the two of them.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson's very confident in the role of Batman now, and that is something I really enjoy seeing. That, you know, he's adapted this role into his own, not just while Bruce is away, but now that Bruce is back, he's had to rethink. You know, now it's not a temporary thing anymore. I'm Batman. This is the deal. Yeah, and it's something that we talked about it last week in Detective Comics, but seeing it here now, I think it's just a consistent thing that's carried over. Now, over at this antique shop section, like
Yeah.
you said, where we find that...
The secondary double cross, which I gotta admit again, I didn't see this one coming. I figured, something was going to happen. I figured whoever this mysterious person getting the information was, they, have to go they would go on and it would play on. But no, they, through the phone conversation that, our earlier guy had with this one, he realized, okay, there's something wrong here. And to protect this great secret, the guy not only kills himself, but he rigs the place up to blow. So when the bad guy comes in to question him, boom. Nice surprise. I really, really digged it.
This bit with Sasha inside Wayne Tower, trying to build up the property, trying to buy up the properties and rebuild there in Crime Alley, makes sense as far as let's take these properties, turn them into something. It's a great area of Gotham to hopefully try to revitalize. I'm curious to see what the end motives really are, as far as for this group. What are they really after? But I was thinking, too, and I don't know if this ran through your mind, how does that affect Tim Drake?
Yeah.
And, it's more than just Bruce, because Bruce obviously has an emotional attachment to that area. That's why he owns those properties. But it's also Tim Drake now is using one of those properties as a base of operations. Just got us started with that.
Yeah, so it's...
How does he feel about all that?
Yeah, I think he's going to have an issues with it. And it was funny for me, when I'm reading this, I'm immediately... just because they have these characters, you're going to immediately start having some suspicion. But there is the little clues that are laying down that there's something not completely kosher. Mm-hmm. Whenever you get somebody who's, any type of quote-unquote real estate deal where there's willing to pay ridiculously over the value, that makes you, think twice. Because any real estate person, is going to try to, the key is to get the property for as low as possible. If you want to make money off of it, if you want to, help out with your bottom line or any of the economics behind real estate deals, buy low, sell high. They came in and completely flipped it around, saying they're going for a full buy-on. The other thing is that 24-hour deadline she threw on there. Anytime somebody wants to make you rush through a process, makes you want really get it. Hey, we need this. Where are we at with this?
They want you sloppy.
Yeah, they want you sloppy. So those two big things right there naturally just set off red flags, in everybody's mind. And I love the fact that it wasn't overlooked by the superheroes because they see this kind of stuff as well. So it's everybody's on the thing. The question is, what is their end game? And I love that nice little mystery going on.
Yeah, I do too. It was funny to see in the Gotham Diamond District where we see this party going on with Selina, and this is time for Dick Grayson and her to have that one-on-one chat. But Dick Grayson now, and I think this is a major distinction, I don't know if you're reading it this way too, we see more of the tuxedo-wearing Dick Grayson in the previous run because he really was filling in completely for Bruce. With Hush running around with Bruce's face, Dick Grayson needed to become sort of the quote-unquote face of Wayne Enterprises, as the eldest son at that moment. And it was great to see him, and you see a little bit more of that out of Tim Drake as well. Both of the sons taking on more of a managerial role in that. Now we see Dick Grayson dressing a little bit more casual, being a little bit more Dick Grayson in these moments. I loved that distinction. It was a very subtle thing between the two of them, but Selina even commented on it at the moment. And, Dick coming back with saying that, Bruce is more the tuxedo-wearing person. And I'm assuming Selina knew all along what Katrina had been doing at these moments. Even though she's playing dumb.
Yeah.
And do you think that she approves of the behavior, or is it that she knows about it, is trying to guide her in a different direction?
I think she's trying to guide her. I think she didn't go, hey, why don't you go after this person, or go after this person. If you're going here, try this technique. She's not doing that kind of stuff because she knows that would really put her in danger, and she doesn't want that. But she's given her the opportunity. She's giving her resources, and just being kind of a mentor to her, hoping to kind of steer her in the right direction, kind of deal. Where it's at the end of the kind
do you
of
think she'll also rebel if Selina becomes too hands-on?
Yes.
As far as giving too many direct orders, pick and choose when.
Exactly.
When I get firmer to make sure that she'll listen during those times.
Yeah.
Versus if I do it constantly, she's going to shut down and just, abandon.
Disappear. She'll just disappear again. And so you got to have enough of a solid hand, but you can't be completely loosey goosey. There's got to be some discipline, but you can't be the strict drill sergeant where you'll wake up at this time, go to bed at this time. I don't know. That won't work for her. And actually, Selena probably wouldn't be comfortable being that type of person. So it's definitely a nice little game of cat and mouse, if you will, that they got to play out.
Yeah, when you're saying loosey goosey, I'm like, Selena Kyle's the last person in the world I think I would ever put loosey goosey on as a label, but it totally fits exactly at that moment. That's why I was chuckling. Now, this Sasha, we knew all along that there was something more to her. This confrontation with her and Dick Grayson, this is again where we get to see there's multiple factions playing out here. And arrows being shot through. Was the arrow coming at Grayson or coming at her?
See, I initially thought it was coming after Dick, but then the way she reacted, the way, he even says she's, an assassination attempt on her, and then as the stuff play out, I'm like, no, it was targeted for her. She was...
Yet she was protecting him for the purpose of her own agenda.
She thinks she needed to protect him because that's, Dick Grayson. She doesn't know that that's Batman.
And this is a multi-million-dollar deal that she
needs to have happen so he can't die.
This bit where Dick Grayson's running and the Bat drone, is kicking off. It's very fluid. It's everything I liked in his book when Tomasi was writing it, where he just had this idea that this is a guy who is very comfortable getting up to high heights and taking advantage of those moments to quickly and instantly change into Batman. I loved every bit of the way. It was very James Bondish, very much. I love Bat gadgets, leading to this beautiful image of him, but I can as Batman.
Yeah.
And I love his costume. More and more that I see it, especially knowing that it's no longer a fill-in role. I love the absolute distinction between the whole thing, the way the belt's been redone, the gloves slightly. I'm glad that he kept the dark black Bat logo. There's something about it. It just all comes together and works for me. And it's just he works as Batman. And I kept thinking that the second Bruce was going to be back, that I thought in my mind he was going to take more of a back seat. The closer it got to Bruce's return, the more I'm like, I understand why they're keeping him now. I understand why it's working. Writers have figured out a way to make him feel very Batman, to give you those just as many hell yeah moments where you want to start high-fiving with him, but yet it feels totally fresh, totally different, and totally unique. And it's that distinction that I think is making each of these books, whether they are Bruce-focused or Dick Grayson-focused, work for me, because all the writers are really getting behind their respective Batman and making these stories just feel alive and flow off the pages. The adventure aspect of Dick Grayson as Batman is totally what's working for me. Adventure, it's pulpy adventure, jumping through the rooftops, it's great.
Oh, definitely. And it's at Scramble. And it was funny. I love with those drones you mentioned, because I always figure in my head, that they would have costumes, set up, or, weapons dumps or equipment supplies or anything like that, strategically placed throughout Gotham City, because you never know when you're in the middle of a fight, you're running out of batarangs. Okay, I'll go to resupply dump number 23, and reload kind of stuff. So I love seeing that whole automated aspect of it, and it's just, again, really neat little things. It's, little extra stuff that Batman can do because he's Batman. It's not just about the physical discipline. There are the gadgets. There are the little trickeries, the various, things that he does that makes it a cool character. I'm so glad to see this stuff, on actual paper and not have it be offshoot. Like, they could have very easily done a scene where they showed Dick Grayson running, and then the next scene you see him in the Batman costume, and you would just figure, okay, he had a costume hidden somewhere or something. But the fact that they show us that drone coming in, and they give us those couple extra panels of him running through the rooftop as Grayson before he dons the costume, was just that cool extra little bit in the story that really has me, digging this, and digging what I'm seeing.
It's funny, this has got a great mystery going on to it too, but I did get much more of an adventure aspect to this, whereas a lot more of a mystery focus in Detective Comics. It was interesting to read, reading this, I went back again and reread Detective Comics, and this made me appreciate Detective Comics even more because of the sharp visual style of that book as well.
Yeah.
I think both books have their own style and flavor, and they're delivering top-tier quality titles. And it's reminding me of, we talked about the Green Lantern books. There's 3 Green Lantern books going on right now that I feel are all delivering the same quality. I'm really getting that same vibe from the Bat books, where these are feeling like, AAA top titles that are just kind of going, whoa. And this actually increased my level of respect for Detective Comics even more, having to read this and go back and then seeing the different stories. Sasha as the Peacock.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. Now, this one was one where I totally didn't see this coming. I expected to obviously see her more involved in these assassination attempts and things like that. Did you expect to see her in costume?
No. And I actually was kind of thinking, is she, the person from the beginning, who's trying to find this secret information, but that person blew up, and I'm like, or did they survive? And so that was something that, especially that scene with her and Dick Grayson when she's got the, her fedora on and all that, she kind of had that same type of
who is the killer in the beginning? Is that her?
And well, I'm thinking killers, plural.
Right.
There's definitely multiple people, so that's why I was wondering, is this, that's, I didn't know if it was her, if it was, somebody else. Is it, the Sensei's people that we see, or, who is behind this? So we still have, even though we got a couple reveals in this story, we still have more unknowns. We still have more, okay, is this a completely different group? That's why when you earlier said we have 2 groups, well, probably 3, there could be 4. Because you figure the unknown group from the beginning, you got Sensei's people, you got Sasha, and then you got Ra's al Ghul. So I'm thinking we got at least 4 parties outside of the Bat
we don't know
family.
that Ra's al Ghul's involved. See, that's the funny part is I'm guaranteed at the end of this that there's 2 groups.
Yeah.
Because it could be these 2 factions that are really doing everything to each other, and that's it. I do agree with you. There's a possibility there may be a 3rd group in the game. I'm not entirely convinced that my opinion is if Ra's al Ghul's involved, it's going to be that he's in league with the Sensei. But I don't know that I necessarily even believe this is going to turn out to be a Ra's al Ghul story.
Yeah.
I think the Sensei could be completely a lunatic free agent, and that's that. But could there be a 4th fact? Maybe. Yeah. We guaranteed by the end of this, we know there's 2 sides. It's the Sensei side and the Peacock side. And those are the 2 sides that are involved. And everybody else that was involved is...
See, for me, I think there's a 3rd. I'm confident there's 3 sides. I'm confident the group that was in the beginning of the book isn't the Sensei, I don't think. I think they're a completely
couldn't that be
separate entity.
Sasha's group?
I don't think they're Sasha's group either. I think Sasha is actually, maybe one of the good guys in this whole mix-up.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, that's...
But could she... I guess here's my thing. Could she be with this ancient order... And could it turn out that the secret that they were keeping and everything, she's just a part of that honorable order, and then it was the Sensei's group that was doing the killing? I don't know.
Could be. That could definitely be,
That's why I'm saying there's a part of me that's seeing the possibility that there's only 2 factions.
Yeah, definitely.
And I agree with you that there could be more. That's one of the things I love about the story. At the end, I actually want to know. I'm engaged heavily in this story. I want to know where it's going to go. You alluded to this earlier. It's one of the great things that I think is consistent in all the bad titles right now. They're all delivering stories where they're unique and independent. Like, this has nothing to do with what's going on in Detective Comics at all. Both are Dick Grayson stories. Both are delivering high-caliber stories.
Yeah.
That I'm really engaged in wanting to follow as they're going along. And I've got to really just commend editorial, the creative teams that are involved, for putting these teams together and allowing however that process worked to just letting them do what they're doing and guiding them where necessary. I just think that that's working at an amazing level. It was something that I was hoping through this, but you talk about titled. It's not an issue as far as which ones you can drop. It's an issue of, wow, these are all top of the stack reads that I'm so Batman happy right now. And I love that my top of the stack reads right now are Batman books. They aren't drifting 2 or 3 books under. For a while there I've had this stretch where it's been Green Lantern, Brightest Day, every Gail Simone book that's been coming out and things like that have been my top of the stack. And the Bat books have been, kind of right behind those. Mm-hmm. With those big things. Now it's, we got Bat books going neck and neck with my favorites. And which, as a Batman fan, that's the way it should be. This is my character, and when you've got the right creative teams on this book and they're delivering, gangbusters, they should be going neck and neck with, my favorite writers who are delivering their great books as well along the way. I love that right now my top of the stack on a Thursday night, you talk about your Thursday night read when they come out, I am having such trouble deciding what books to read first.
Yeah.
And,
It's a tough
this is
call.
the reason why. I mean, it's woo. When these came out, it was woo.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, and this is something that I'm so glad I have this problem, that it's hard to decide which one's first, because there's, and there are titles that, I always say are my first grab. Well, there are pauses now to it. Still, it's usually like if Secret Six comes out, that's been my first read. But I'll tell you right now, Secret Six going up against one of these really good Batman books, I will look at the Bat book before I grab. I won't read it. I'll look. I'll have the two books in my hand, and instead of just immediately putting down the Batman book, there will be a moment of pause. Now, I still read six first, but there is a moment of pause, and that just shows how powerful the Bat books are to me. And I've always said I'm a Superman guy, and I love just that whole Superman dun-da-da aspect of it. I'm getting that spirit of adventure. I'm getting that wonderful, cool hoorah moments, from these Bat titles. That it's one of those things that they're doing it they're firing on all cylinders for me. They're giving me what I want, when I want, and where I want it. So I'm really, really jazzed.
It's funny what I do now when I pull my initial books on Thursday. It's not one book that I'm pulling as my top read. It's what are my books that I need to read tonight? What are the ones that if I go to sleep tonight and I have not read these books? So I don't really care so much about the order anymore because I just know that they're all going to be like top caliber. So like when I was mentioning Secret Six as being, Secret Six always winds up in that stack, regardless. Birds of Prey in that stack. All the Gale books do. Grounded winds up in that stack. When you mentioned Superman, he winds up in there. JMS's Wonder Woman winds up in that stack. Yeah. Green Lantern books, Brightest Day, they all wind up in those stacks. These are books that, like, as they come out that night, I've got to read those books immediately. The Bat books are winding up in that stack. So my Thursday night read, this is where it's become my Thursday night read is huge. It comes out. And the last couple weeks, we've had this thing where our Thursday books haven't been coming on Thursday. They've been coming on Friday.
Yeah, I know. That's driving me nuts.
Or Monday, when during the holiday, we had that one week. And it was torture waiting to read some of those books. You, thank goodness, brought over when we did Detective Comics on the show last week. You brought over Detective Comics with you. I got to read it right before we did the interview with David Barron, because I was going to do the interview off of just the preview pages, and we had this great opportunity then, because the book was out that day, to actually have that chat with David with the full book. I would have been going through complete and utter craziness if I had to wait that long to read any of the new Bat books that are coming out.
Yeah, I would have been jonesing big time. And it's...
Well, you bought the entire Bat line twice last week.
A couple of the titles, I have 3 copies of it. Batwoman issue 0.
How did you get the 3 copies?
Batwoman issue 0.
Okay.
DCBS gave a really good reduction in rate. They how they do their big discounts sometimes on titles. Mm-hmm. They did that for Batman 0. So
the 75.
Batwoman 0.
75% off. Right?
Yeah. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to get 2 because I'll have the one to read, and then I'll use the one for to get signed and all that, because I thought it was a cool looking cover. Plus, it's a creative team that I'm like, you know what? I am digging this Batwoman, so maybe I'll do that kind of stuff. Well, I completely forgot that I had ordered 2. So when I went to the store, I bought a 3rd one. So now I have 3 copies of it.
It's funny about that, though. Actually, that's a smart move, because you're buying them at 75% off when you were doing it. See, I'm a dope. I don't do that. And that's a book where, too, I agree with you. I love Batwoman enough that I would want the creative team to sign it. I love Amy Reeder Hadley. I don't have any... I loved her from Madame Xanadu. J.H. Williams, obviously. Just the whole creative team on that book. Anybody, from colorists to inkers, anybody who's involved in that book, I would love to have their signature on it. You'd think I would be smart enough to do what you did. I think that's actually a smart move. Why wouldn't you get them at 75% off so you have that copy? I don't do that. Like, when I go to a convention, I'll see who's going to be there, and I will literally set aside the issues that I want signed. Then I'm scrambling online trying to find another copy of the issue so I can have the signed copy and then one that's not signed that would keep, for reading. So stupid that I don't plan ahead and go, okay, I know eventually if I go to a convention I'm going to want this creative team to sign this book, so let me start setting aside a stack of books that are for that purpose at a discount. And here's the funny.
I've
Wait,
done that a couple times now.
Yeah, but here's the funny part. As brilliant as I think you are for doing that, I still won't do it. I'm such a creature of habit.
One of the things that sometimes doesn't work though with this strategy is you got to put your signed copies somewhere else, so you don't have them filed with your other stuff. Because
that's why I won't do it.
One time.
Yeah.
I was all set and I'm like I can't find it. I'm going through everywhere and you got to have a little bit of organization, a little bit of structure.
Well, Batman, great book.
I know.
So, who's got a camera? Ooh, get one of me and the kid first. Then you and me, then the three of us, and then one with the crowbar. Then...
It's funny, we're going to jump into another one of our Bruce or Dick Grayson books, and we were kind of organically talking about Batwoman, and it's something I really wanted to make sure to talk about, because this is a series I've been highly anticipating. And Batwoman number 0, the writer is, co-writer actually, J.H. Williams III, and artist. W. A. Hayden Blackman is the co-writer. Amy Reeder, artist on the Kate sequence. Richard Friend, inker on the Kate sequence. Dave Stewart, colorist. And which is really important, because we'll have to talk about Dave Stewart's colors and how I think it just worked so well with all of this. Todd Klein, letterer. Janelle Siegel is the associate editor. Mike Martz is the editor. And Batman, of course, created by Bob Kane. Now, this was a book right from the get-go. When you see a cover for Batwoman, it reminds me, I loved when Greg Rook and J.H. Williams were doing the detective run.
Yeah.
And, we had different creative teams that were popping on. I know Jock did an issue, and David Barron, they did an issue where they did the art sequences on the Detective Comics run. It's a series that always has had a very stylized art. The character has, we talked about attitude with Damian. Kate carries herself in a way that distinguishes her distinctly from Bruce and Dick Grayson, heavily distinguishes her from the current Batgirl, distinguishes her from Barbara Gordon as well. There's something about her that's not quite like any other character. And it's not her sexual preference that does it, and I love that. I love that that's an element of her that makes her interesting, but it does not tell anything about the story of who she really is as her core as a person, other than we get to see how she has to react to that in her world. I love this character. It's a character that throughout her creation from the time we've seen her in 52, which it's amazing how long it's been this character's been around, and yet I feel we're only scratching the surface of what we know about her.
Yeah, we just are starting to get to see what makes her tick. With Bruce, with Dick, with Tim, with Damian even, with, Stephanie, all of them, we know what motivates them. We know, where their passion lies. Mm-hmm. We started getting good glimpses of that in her run in Detective, where we started seeing her backstory. We started learning more about her. Why is she doing this? She's not just an adventurist, trying to, go for thrills. No, she is committed to the cause. She's committed to the war against, crime, against evil, and whatnot. And I love seeing that about her. And it's funny, because you mentioned her sexual orientation. I like the fact that, again, echoing some of the stuff you said, it's not about that. Yes, that's who she is, but it's not about that. She's not the gay superhero. She's a superhero who also happens to be gay. And it's a part of her life, it's a part of the story, and they're not shying away from it, but they're not, throwing it out there saying, this is all she's about. No, it's, the faction, what makes her is who she is. It's her discipline. It's her commitment to the cause. It's her commitment to, doing the right thing. And that's what makes her, worthy of the bat.
Well, you know what, I guess, and why I thought it was an important distinction here, as I was reading this story, I didn't think about it at all. The same way that I wouldn't think about the fact that Bruce is heterosexual.
Right.
None of that matters to me when I'm reading a superhero story until it came up with her when Bruce was analyzing her and mentioned the discharge. Yeah. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I forgot about that. When I wasn't thinking about that at that moment. I was so caught up in his analysis of her. I really liked that, because it was a distinction that I'm like, this is what's really great about how this character's written, is that just doesn't matter, other than where it's relevant and prevalent in the story, where it needs to be there. And I liked that. I liked that it was something that I just totally forgot about and was following her as just Batwoman.
And they even mentioned when he's following her, like her socializing, and she's being, just that wild party girl kind of deal. Even Bruce comments on, how he sometimes has to do that, the Playboy action, to throw suspicion off of her. That's a great way to throw suspicion off of her as being Batwoman, because you look at it, they both have the fiery red hair. That could be someone could say, hey, we got this really rich person. Hey, she's got a military background. You got to throw out, that their personality wouldn't be wouldn't be Batwoman. She wouldn't be this disciplined. She wouldn't be this kind of, intense person. So just it's that whole protection of the secret identity. Same deal that Bruce does where with the $1 Million Playboy. It's, I loved seeing those comparisons again, just, why she is Batwoman, who she is. She's got a lot of similarities to Bruce, and they have a lot of the same kind of MO, but she is who she is. And I can't, express, enough how, fun this read was for me. Just seeing Bruce analyzing her, seeing Bruce studying her, and Bruce knowing who she is kind of deal. I thought that was a really cool kind of moment.
This felt very much of what I liked about the one-shots that were going along. I'm glad they did this as a zero issue with her and distinguished it from those. That it wasn't him as the insider, it was him now, I'm back as Batman.
Yeah. Here's
another person. We've seen it in Azrael. Actually, I don't know if we're going to get a chance to talk about Azrael on this episode, but I would actually like to talk about what's going on in Azrael as well on an upcoming show. Because I'm really digging him taking kind of these outside characters and analyzing them as well and kind of going through, can they be brought in? Should they be brought in?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Because, he's trying to tighten things up. And I really feel that he's seeing her as a kindred spirit here. That something's happened in her life that's driving that. I've got a hypothesis. I love that it's a hypothesis that he's acting on.
Yeah.
I'm pretty darn sure I'm right, but I am not going to approach her until I've 100% verified. I do not want to take any chances of having this blow up in my face. And I also don't want her to try to convince me otherwise. Yeah. I want to know. Because that's what Batman's all about. It's about having that solid information, not letting the other person have the advantage in any way, shape, or form. Even if they're an ally a potential ally that he's looking to approach, he needs to have this. And this is something we actually, when we talk about Batman Incorporated #1, we're going to have to discuss that he does this again.
Yeah. It's some of the best investigations and interrogations. You start off with questions you already know the answer to. You don't want to start off with mystery questions where if the person's telling you a good lie, it can throw you off. You go in knowing the sky is blue. And if that person tells you the sky is green, guess what? You know where this is going to go off, right off the bat. So he's got to know 100% before there's any contact, before there's any discussion with her that, she is Batwoman. He can't have any doubt or mystery in his head because that will throw off his investigation, his interrogation, questioning, discussions, whatever it ends up being between Batman and Batwoman. There will be that moment where they sit down and they have that face-to-face. Maybe it'll be off camera and we won't see it. I hope to God we get to see it because I think it'll be an awesome story, if you get, that intensity kind of moments of the two.
Don't you think it's a lock we're going to see that?
Yeah. It's gotta be. We gotta have it.
That'd be a missed opportunity, I think, not to have it eventually. I don't care when it happens. I want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the artwork before we continue further into the story because it's something for me. You've got two different art teams going on. You have the same colorist all the way through, which I think is a key here. It's a great example, again, of how a great colorist like Dave Stewart can take two different art styles that seem to... kudos to both. That they really seem to complement each other, complement the story, and it never once took me out of... I never felt it just jarringly different. And I really, to me, that's entirely on the fact that they use the same colorist all the way through to interconnect everything. It just feels very interconnected. Go ahead.
It's funny because you're saying it wasn't jarring for you. Mm-hmm. I honestly, when I read the comics, I don't read creative team on the first run.
Okay.
I literally read through the title, first run, just sit down, read through and all that. In that read through, I didn't know there was two different creative teams. I was actually, as I'm reading, I'm thinking to myself, wow, they're doing a good job with, changing things up a little bit. But I always felt it was the same person doing it, just making I thought they were just making little tweaks here.
Out of costume, in
costume. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then the second read through, I'm like, it was a different person. Oh, that's awesome! It was just this great blend through, nice flowing, and agree completely with your sentiments on how the colorist really brought these two styles together and gave us a nice it was a nice congealed.
Yeah, and it worked. It worked very well. I can't comment on what you're talking about because I knew going into the issue that there was two different art teams working on it, so I was looking for that. And I think it's even more complimentary knowing to look for it and feeling that it just really flows nicely. And I actually I had to look at the creative teams to see where they did it because I wasn't sure were there some pages where she did Batwoman and Kate, or was it her doing all Kate? That's really a compliment, I think, to both creative teams as well, as recognizing this book needs to have a feel that feels very Batwoman, feels very much. I'm assuming they had to have shared pages along the way, as far as this is what my style's looking like, this is what yours. I don't know how they did it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what the process went like, but it worked, and it's something where this book feels very much like a very tight knit, one connected piece, even though we were flashing between two different areas. I was glad they didn't drop the whole religion of crime thing.
Yeah,
that it was for us longtime readers who have been following her story. We're seeing that she's still having these battles, and that's something now that Bruce is aware of, which he's known, but now a little bit more in tune with because he's seeing these actions go on, and he's using that as a way to evaluate her, and also to evaluate them, for his database, which is something that Bruce does, and I really liked that aspect of it as well.
Now that the cemetery scenes with her, just talking about art sequencing and just the kind of like. The
guy looking on too, watching, the caretaker.
Well, that's Bruce.
Oh, duh! Yes, that's right. He was in costume.
But just that look. The one scene in her face. For me, I was like kind of wondering: is she figuring out that she's being followed? Does she know that? And that's my big guess is she knew all along Bruce was following her. She knew all along. Well, not Bruce, but she knew Batman was following her. And when we get this final confrontation, this final meeting between the two of them, she's gonna reveal to him, "Hey, I know you were following me. Are you
such
done
a
following?"
moron. I am such a moron. No, because you know what? Throughout this, I've read this book easily 3 times now, and throughout every read-through, I've gotten all the Bruce in costume. Just because it's so blatantly him talking. That's the one I'm going to be honestly admitting to you. When I pointed to as the caretaker, I honestly was not at any point in time thinking Bruce. I should have been thinking Bruce. Yeah. I'm an idiot. So I'll totally 110% admit it that I was just thinking of him as, oh, wow, it's just this wonderful scene with the caretaker watching onto her, and Bruce is somewhere in the shadows, like watching her. Duh.
Outstanding.
Too funny. I caught him dressed up as that veteran, with the beard and everything like that. I mean, so obvious in those sequences. But I love the way it's a great example of action sequences balanced with calm on each page. I love the way the page is divided top to bottom.
Yes.
I don't know if that's something they're going to do as a regular sequence of events, but and honestly, I don't think that they have to have a set format for Batwoman. One of the things I really liked about Batwoman previously was that no matter what art team was working on the book, it had a lot of style. Mm-hmm. And this is a book that all the way through let the style, let the story dictate the style where necessary. Because even it's funny when I did my third read through, I really paid distinct attention to the different art teams, and they each are developing very much their own style, yet they feel balanced and connected, because if you take a look at what J.H. Williams is doing with the panels up here for these action sequences, a lot different than the calm sequences that Amy Reeder's setting up over there and Richard Friend. Mm-hmm. And both of them just yet connect and have this energy that just seems to work. I would love to be just a fly on the wall to see how they did this, because even you take a look here, this is a great example of where diagonally, the whole page is cut in half diagonally. So they both had to have, she had smaller panels at first, building to larger ones. He had larger panels building to smaller ones. How did they pull that one off?
Yeah,
was that done in post? I mean, it had to have been done post.
I don't think so. I'm betting, that this
trading
was trading pages, kind of, high. It was probably a lot of contact communication, back and forth. This is what we're doing, kind of deal. This is one of those. I'm willing to bet this is kind of an editorial kind of guidance type of deal. This isn't just the creative, the artists doing it. I'm thinking editors also probably were in on this.
This
writing,
is very much the standard with J.H. Williams though as well. So I'm going to give a lot of credit here to J.H. Williams as far as laying that out initially, but then Any way you look at it, whoever got the page second, if it was Amy Reed, I'm assuming Amy Reeder got the page second. You're then working off of, okay, he's done this, so now I've got to tell my story. In that same space, I've got to tell my part of the story visually.
Yeah,
that impresses me to no end that both of them pulled that off with this energy.
Yeah,
and looks fantastic.
I know. This is one of the cool things about this title that had me going, all right. It wasn't just I like the character. I really do like this character. But this is, again, a visually pleasing book. Mm-hmm. It's not my quote-unquote traditional, normal comic book style that I always rave about and I always gush about. But it has that great feel and that great vibe to it that fits this story. And it fits this layout. It fits, who this is. So once again, I'm like, hey, boom, this is awesome.
I would hand this to anybody, though, who doesn't read comics regularly and just say, page through this. This is why it's an art form.
Yeah.
Because this is a great example of creative teams playing with the medium. How do we tell stories? I'll give a great book that this reminds me of that I really enjoyed, The Shield. We talked about the art style of The Shield and how they were constantly playing with the concept of the panel and, letting the panel kind of move and change in shape and size and style to fit the type of storytelling they were trying to do, almost to make you feel like you were in this suit. This, in its own way, is fitting to tell a two-tiered Batwoman story that's really locked tight, because it needs to have the same beats at the right time in both in and out of costume in order to tell the story that Bruce is telling as a narrator through this. And it nails it. It really does, in a way that so totally works for me. The library sequence is something that I really loved, because it took me... This is a page where I distinctly noticed it was Amy Reeder. Yeah. And it took me back to what I liked in Madame Xanadu. It has a little bit of that kind of vertigo-y, magical feel to it that works for me in a Batwoman book, because I always felt Batwoman felt like a vertigo-y title.
Yeah, it needs to have that. Yeah.
In its style, I think is something that JH was delivering right from the get-go of that, and that the other creative teams just picked up on it along the way.
Yeah.
And it was something that's really, really stayed consistent with it. It's hard to follow like what Greg Rucka was doing, and this team's... It feels to me totally like what I was enjoying about Bat. It's like we haven't missed a beat.
Amen. Exact sentiment, exact feeling. This is, he's a tough act to follow, and they're doing it. And they're not only just doing it, they are, doing it very well, and they're, throwing out stuff that has me excited and looking forward to issue 1. This isn't just, okay, they made it through the title. They put forth something that I really, really digged, and I'm really getting passionate about, and I'm like, yeah, this is something I want to follow. This is something I want to read. So it's not just even, because to say, yeah, they're able to follow him, yeah, people can follow, but can they follow and then continue? Can they follow and build? And this is building on this great foundation they had, taking, Batwoman on to the next level, to, the future and beyond.
I like Bruce, noticing Bat Kane and saying, well, hey, hang on. Is this a crime-fighting family? Are they working together? With Flamebird being with her, is this going to be something that, and is that going to be something that he draws off of then? And we don't know yet. Are they gonna fight crime together or not? We don't know. What would your preference there be? I kind of like her being a solo agent.
Oh, I definitely like her solo agent. I don't, well, we say solo agent, but I love the fact that her dad's in on it and stuff like that.
But I mean, when she's in costume,
when she's in costume, I like seeing just her by herself. When the character was first introduced, I was hoping it would be, Batwoman and the Question. Mm-hmm. And we would get a lot of Renee Montoya, because she's another character that I absolutely just adore, that I'd love to see out there more. As I'm getting more Batwoman stories, I don't need the Question with her. I don't
team
need
ups. Team ups I'd be okay with
occasionally, but I don't need it to be. When she was first introduced, I really wanted Batwoman and the Question being the title, and give it a Gotham name or something like that, and have it be those two. Now I'm like, I don't need that. I'd like to see Renee in there, because Renee does some cool stuff. She's a neat character.
Guest.
And nice guest appearance. Do a story arc, then she goes off, does her own thing, comes back maybe another time later. But the main thing is, this is a Batwoman title. Same Same deal with any of the Bat family. I would like to see them make guest appearances, but they don't need to be in every single issue.
And I don't need a team up in every single issue either.
No.
Like in this case, I really like that Bruce is watching her from a distance, but he's not involved.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really working for me. And I love that there's a moment where he's ready to step in. She's in the middle of this big fight, and he's like, this is the moment where I need to step in. I need to, do my part. And doesn't do it. Because it wasn't the right time. She actually found her own way out.
Yeah.
And I love that the ultimate test that he does for her, he comes in as a mugger, and tries to do it that way. And see, that was brilliant to me because let me get her when she's not expecting it. Yeah. When she's out of costume, how does she react to that? And we get to see Amy Reeder then handle an action sequence in this as well, which I really loved. I'm like, okay, yes, not only did J.H. Williams get all this great action that we get to see her in costume, Amy Reeder gets to show us who this character is. And I loved that she looked like the same Batwoman. They mirrored each other.
Yes.
I adored this sequence where Batwoman's fighting down below. Up on the top, Batwoman's doing, out of costume, the same moves. And Bruce isn't noticing. This is a precision move. She's created elements of her own fighting style here. I loved that analysis and how Bruce got to see it both up close and from a distance. So cool.
With some of the best fight sequencing, and just we've seen it multiple times when Bruce was dressed as the insider and all that, and you have this fighting style that is unique to an individual. No matter what you're wearing outside, this is who you are, and it's really cool. So whenever you get these high-level fighting people like Bruce, or with any of the Birds, or any of the these people who have been trained, they can recognize someone's fighting style. They can recognize who it is by their fighting style. I love seeing that in any story that I get and any story that I see, and this for me was just a really cool sequence, not only visually pleasing but story-wise, and it was just gives you that great full-on. Yes, I love this.
I love it. We've got this whole sequence going where we've got like clear set panels. Then we get to this whole sequence here, and they're just kind of like, let's put a bat symbol here because the panel thing has just kind of gone over haywire, which fits the intensity of the action of the sequence. I love that. You've got this red bat symbol, obviously reminiscent of Batwoman here, so appropriately placed all the way through because they're bleeding between panels at this point with boots and stuff like that. What a beautiful presentation.
I know.
And I'm literally gushing over this book because it's woof. She's not in the running for one of our, favorites because we're doing just the Bruce and Dick books, but they would have a contender here. This book is fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is the Zero issue.
This is the Zero issue. I know. It's got to say, that's, as I said, there's these titles that are coming out where they have these things that, they have that X factor, that whatnot behind them that's got me going, I want more. These kind of sequences, this kind of stuff where in and out of the costume, who she is, what she's about, just the adventure. Again, another adventure type of character where it has that same, that high energy, that, that fun, feeling that we get with Dick in the costume. I get that with her in her costume, but there's also is still that underlining she is the hardened soldier. She is the disciplined fighter. She is the person who has lost a lot and is now going to make sure nobody else suffers the pain she suffered. The quintessential mindset behind the Bat is in her, and I love seeing that.
It's not just the move that gives her away, it's the way the eyes burn. Those eyes tell me she won't ever be a victim again. I'm not sure what she's after, but this is far from over. That whole sequence of events was something I just loved. And I love that it bled between the two different stories, the greater use of the dialogue where it would all interconnected there. This is something where Greg Rucka made a decision for whatever reason. There's a lot of reasons behind, and very difficult decision when you're going to leave a character that like Batwoman. To go, because I know he's doing things like Queen and Country, and he's got other things on his plate that he's doing. That's why he left DC to do what he's doing. When you make that decision, you take a look at a character. This has got to be true of any writer who leaves a character that they've worked with. I'm sure when Gail Simone left Ryan Choi, and had to make that decision. That was a very tough decision because you've helped really kind of craft who this character is, and that's I think when she left Wonder Woman, I would say it's through any writer. You really have an impact on a character, and you leave, and you got to look back and say, is the team that's going to follow me going to really be able to build off of what I did? Are they going to go and completely do their own thing? J.H. Williams obviously heavily involved with Greg Rucka, especially the kickoff of Detective Comics with that run. Interesting to see just how much this feels right. And it's not a redoing what Greg Rucka's done. It's an evolving and continuing what he's done. And hopefully something that I hope Greg Rucka really connects with and has had the opportunity to look at and go, wow, this really honors what I did before and really shows that they know, like J.H. Williams and W. Hayden Blackman really understand this character and where to go with this character and to give this character a future. And wow,
there's definite respect to what came before, and you can see it and you can feel it from the what they're saying and what they're showing us. And that was something I really, really appreciated, seeing that it's not okay, let's change everything, let's do it. No, we have this great foundation and we're going to build off of this foundation. And I thought that for me was just one of the biggest and exciting things about this issue 0.
And I love the end. I don't know when it's going to happen because I'm assuming hydrology is not going to kick off.
Yeah.
With the conversation between Bruce and Batwoman. I want to see it though too. Somewhere I've got to see that discussion because after the assessment, I'd love to see that on the page.
Yes.
And I don't know if we're going to get it. And I am actually, by the time at the beginning, I was thinking to myself, when you originally said, I said we have to get it right. I don't know now. I guess I really don't at the end of this because. I almost, hydrology, I'm looking at this horror story that's clearly coming through there, and I love the visual. This can't come fast enough. When is the next issue? I don't think we ordered it? I don't think we have we?
I think it's January.
Right.
Well, that's next month. Oh, wow. It's December.
No, February. It's right here.
Oh, February?
On sale in February. So, this can't come quick enough.
I know.
But very, very cool. And yay, Batwoman. I'm glad she's back.
I'm going to need something to wear in a very big truck.
Sure. Anything else?
I'll need some guys. Not these guys because, well, they're kind of dead.
Joining us for this segment are friends of the show from the Comic Timing podcast, Brent Cassina and Ian Levinstein. Guys, welcome to Raging Bullets.
Thanks for having us.
Whoop, whoop.
And Brent, you guys are going to remember from many BK's Bullet. Guys, we're going to be focusing this episode on Batman Inc. #1. I have a couple lead-up questions I wanted to ask before we kick into chatting about the book proper. Leading up to the return of Bruce Wayne, which camp were you guys in? Were you in that, A camp where it's loving Dick Grayson, could care less about Bruce? The B camp where you wanted Bruce to return and for Dick to give up the cowl? Or were you in C, kind of in the middle, liking the new Batman and anxious to see where it would take both characters? Where did you guys fall in? Brent, I'll start with you.
I was kind of digging Dick as Batman. And I was just kind of the C camp. Interesting to see where it would go because I knew that, Grant Morrison was behind it. So, all can go wrong and all can go right kind of thing. So I thought it was either a do or die thing for them to make Dick as Batman really interesting. And I think with Grant Morrison at the helm, they really did that. So
I was also in C. I think that at first, when it all started, I thought that it was a little bit too similar to what Marvel was doing with Captain America, where the quote unquote sidekick was taking over the main role, and then going from there. But once we actually got the issues in particular, I really started to like Dick as Batman, and Damian as Robin felt natural too because Tim didn't need the role of Robin anymore. Really, he had gotten into his own, and he was trying to find his own identity, and that's really what Red Robin had become. So I was perfectly okay with Red Robin being there. When Bruce came back, for me it almost would have been like a complete cop out had they have just let Dick become Nightwing again, because all that character advancement that had occurred with him as Batman would just go out the window. And that's not something I really wanted to see, because there's been enough backtreading in comics over the years, and I did not want to see that happen again with Dick Grayson and Damian. So the Batman Inc. concept is definitely a good way for the two Batmen to coexist, and possibly the 704, depending on how many Batmen he winds up getting.
He'll get 52 Batman.
Of course.
A literal multiverse of Batman.
Well, I'm of the camp where I want it all. I want it all. I want it now. I was just excited about the Dick Grayson. I love seeing his evolution, the return of Bruce, Batman Inc., all of this just going into. I've been, chomping at the bit. I was one of the, early on saying, I want to Batman. I want, Dick Grayson to keep the cowl. I want Bruce to come back and be in the cowl. I didn't want, this concept of Batman Inc. and just the fact that Bruce is going to be out there doing more than just in Gotham really has me excited because it's showing a nice evolution and growth of character. Not only just in Dick Grayson, but also Bruce. He's giving up a lot of control. He's not the, just completely, control freak kind of antisocial hero. He is putting himself out there. He's taking these chances. He's meeting new heroes and bringing them under the fold, giving them some support, taking the message and spreading it out. This is a different Bruce Wayne. This is a different Dick Grayson. Damian, as always, has just been a fun character. He started off where I wanted to just really beat him to death. I wanted to give him the crowbar treatment and get rid of him. Now I love this kid. Now I can't get enough of Damian. I'm like, he is just that attitude is just so wonderful, and it goes along, with Dick Grayson's just adventurer, circus performer, fun, big brother kind of personality. To have this little monster with him makes them a really great team, and I'm excited about the future of the Bat family.
Is that normal evolution for you, for a kid, where it goes from wanting to hit him over the head with a crowbar and ending his life to being, yeah, you're all right?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
This is Jim's actually starting a brand new daycare, Sensei of the Whatnot Daycare. They're accepting new memberships all the time, which is funny too. From week to week, they're completely loaded. I fall in with, I started out at the beginning very clearly wanting Bruce back and Dick to take on the role of Nightwing. Although very similar to what Ian was saying in his comments, I wanted to see evolution for Dick Grayson. I didn't want it to be just, I'm going back to being Nightwing. I wanted this to be something where, I guess I was assuming that Nightwing would then be the leader of the Justice League, and we would see Nightwing take a much more prominent role in the DC Universe, if that makes sense. So, and us, honestly, possibly looking at Nightwing and Damian continuing to team up. So I didn't see this as being a dropping of that relationship. I saw it as like them going there, because I guess I wasn't thinking along the lines of, they might actually keep more than one.
Yeah.
I didn't see that happening with Batman. As the storyline continued and we began to learn that that is the direction they were heading in, I had to really open my mind up to, Dick Grayson might be staying. I clearly wanted Bruce back all along. So as long as that was happening, I was very open-minded to anything else. So I guess all along I really fell into Camp C. I just never saw the real possibility of two men under the cowl, and if it was only going to be one, I wanted the one to be Bruce. That was where my mind changed. I love this concept. It's working really well. For the evolution aspect, that actually is a real key, because I did want to see Dick Grayson continue to evolve. I've always thought he was an A-list character, so I didn't think that was ever a question mark for me. I thought that sometimes his series didn't showcase that he was an A-list character. I think the work of Peter Tomasi on Nightwing is a great example of where there's a writer who is showing an A-list character. I think there have been various runs throughout the character's history that have shown him as an A-list character. I think it's great now that we have him in this place and in this role. I don't care what outfit he's wearing. He could wear a tutu, and Dick Grayson's still an A-list character. So,
I'm sorry. I don't care what your interests are. I do not want Dick Grayson in a tutu.
Yeah, Nightwing.
Well, with Grant Morrison in particular, I think we've been getting those moments lately, because who would have suspected when this whole Bruce Wayne thing began, when he got lost in time in the first place, that when he came back, he would form a incorporation of Batman. I mean, who thought that he was going to be revealing that Bruce Wayne is the one that backs Batman, and that was going to be how he would explain why there are multiple Batmen running around? I thought that was a great idea, and that plays in well with the evolution even of the character of Bruce Wayne, because now he gets to be a little bit less hidden with what he's doing in his own company and in public, because a lot of the stuff he's going to be doing is going to be associating probably with Batman, which is better for his own secret identity, I think.
I think one of the things I enjoy about that is it actually makes the character of Bruce Wayne now something that's evolved. Because now there can be threats to Bruce that you haven't seen before. And the idea of him jet-setting around the world on certain missions, Bruce can be doing things as Bruce Wayne for Batman and Batman Incorporated publicly. What kind of danger will that put him in? What kind of adventures will that put Bruce Wayne himself on out of the cowl? I enjoy Bruce Wayne stories a great deal. And I love that the character is, from being kind of the bumbling playboy, at times we see him in the boardroom a lot more shrewd, more active, a lot more charismatic, a lot more with a public eye. And I think that's going to be a neat little, we can tell some stories now with Bruce Wayne that we haven't done before. And I think that's going to be the interesting part. Now Bruce Wayne, all of a sudden, wow, he's a character to watch.
The thing I think is neat is we're going to get these attempts on Bruce's life that Batman he's going to be able to just throw the cowl on, fix the situation, and no one's going to think twice about it now. Well, it's Bruce Wayne was in danger and Batman showed up. Why is that? Well, now we know why, because it's on the payroll. Batman's on his payroll. He's funding the Batman project. Naturally, there's going to be a Batman handy to take care of and keep Bruce Wayne safe. So people are I'm thinking we're going to get people who are looking and seeing at Batman at the new costume, the new Batman costume, and thinking that's multiple people, not just the one Batman.
With Dick Grayson as well.
Yeah, so they're going to
popping in, and then Batman from around the world, depending on where he happens to be located at the time.
We're going to see people are going to start thinking that these two guys are in reality like 4 or 5, maybe a half a dozen people, just because they'll be appearing at different spots. And then especially once we start introducing these international Batmen, that's really going to add to the throwing kind of like a nice protection to the secret identity.
Guys, we're kind of already leading into my second question. What are your feelings on the concept of Bruce Wayne searching the world for new Batman to spread the concept all over the world? Well, how do you feel? I mean, we've kind of already touched on this, but do you see them giving up their identities like Nightwing did? Do you see them remaining who they are? Do you see them a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B?
Well, I'm definitely thinking we're not going to get them going by the name Batman. They're going to keep their own personality. They're going to keep their own identity, but they're going to be under the Batman Inc. Family. They're going to have access to the resources. They're going to have, his type of, maybe some help with training. Maybe they'll have access to Oracle and the birds or give throw out a call, call for backup, and Bruce shows up. Now, they're not going to know who Bruce is. They're not going to know any secret identities. That's going to take time. That's going to take trust. But they are going to be in the incorporate. They are going to have the financial assets and the financial resources that Bruce Wayne does bring to Batman. All the cool gadgets, all the cool toys that Bruce has cost money. Well, now these other superheroes who do not have these unlimited resources are going to get access to those funds.
I kind of see it like a badge, kind of like a police. I don't think they'll all be in the same bat uniform. Maybe some of them will do it more than others, I think. But really, honestly, he's kind of been doing this all along with the Bat family, and now he's finally decided to make it legit. Like, yes, this is my family. It's not just a sidekick or some other hero that I team up with every once in a while. Now it's legit. It's like, okay, yes, these are my people. These are my, my deputies. You listen to them or you deal with me, kind of thing. So I think the people, everybody in the Bat family now, I think will just stick to what they got because everybody knows them as part of the Bat family. But new heroes coming along, maybe they'll give them a badge or something like that, or maybe they'll incorporate the Bat symbol into whatever their costume was before, because I don't think it's Bruce's personality to go, you're going to become a part of Batman Inc., you're going to be Batman. People have their own personalities and stuff, and Dick doing what he did, it's just kind of like Bruce didn't really have any control about that because he was gone. But if Dick were still Nightwing, I think he would just say, here's your Batman Incorporated badge or whatever. So
one of the great things is Bruce has seen this as an advantage. Like, now I can travel the world as Batman while leaving a Batman fully and heavily in control of Gotham that I completely trust. So it's actually a win-win for him because the Batman presence is still in Gotham. That symbol is still in place in his city with somebody who obviously has made it his own while he was gone, which is So, it leads me to believe I don't think that Morrison all along intended for Dick Grayson to stay Batman. I think this really happened out of the success and popularity of Dick Grayson as Batman. And I think Morrison intended all along to do Batman Incorporated. But I'm wondering if perhaps there was a bending of saying, well, let's just keep Dick Grayson because, hey, look, in this story that I'm crafting, how great would it be to have a Batman there? And it explains why he's able to jet set and to do all this. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, if you think I'm right there or not. Or
Well, I think that this is all part of Dick Grayson's extended life in the DC universe. That, you know, he was originally supposed to die in Infinite Crisis. You know, that was supposed to be his first step, but they were like, nah, that's probably not a good idea. So then they, you know, got Tomasi to write his book for a while, and that was a great extension of Dick Grayson as Nightwing. And then he becomes Batman, and they were probably thinking, oh, well, this is going to be a temporary thing like it usually is, and you know, maybe after that we'll bring him back to Nightwing. But I doubt people are really going to catch on with this whole Dick Grayson thing. And then when they did, they were like, okay, maybe we should keep him on. I mean, I hate to keep bringing up Captain America in this aspect, but the same thing happened over at Marvel when, you know, originally, and this is why with one of the comics coming out right now, Steve Rogers is actually in the Captain America outfit. It's because the original plan was going to be Captain America is back to being Steve Rogers, Bucky goes off and does his own thing. But Bucky as Cap became so popular that they wound up keeping him around, and that's what wound up happening there. So it's a very similar thing with Dick Grayson. I would guarantee you the original plan was to bring him back to Nightwing or have him be new and not necessarily be in the Bat outfit, but by this whole thing being done.
yeah, well, and adding weight to that, if interviews with Morrison was that Dick Grayson as Batman was supposed to be a much shorter thing. I think they were saying 6 months.
Yeah.
Initially is what they were shooting for. And they actually extended it, 14, I think was what the original, and then actually it got to go a little bit more than that because of the way the whole return thing planned out before we got into this storyline. So I think you're spot on what you were seeing. And I'm really glad, actually, that it's a great example of, I think in comics, you sometimes need to just listen to the fans. And I think it's a great example of where, honestly, I would have played it safe and kept Bruce, not because I'm playing it safe, I'm a diehard Bruce fan. I wanted Bruce as Batman. That was clearly what I wanted at the end of this. I was enjoying seeing Dick Grayson as Batman, but at the end, I wanted Bruce back. They've so sold me on, I love Dick Grayson Batman. So it's interesting. I never thought in a million years, if you'd told me 5 years ago, I would be saying, hey, multiple Batman is a great idea. I would have told you were loony. I would have said, there's no way. That idea on paper stinks to me. And I love it now. So it's a great example of where listening to multiple groups of fans and trying to find a way to bring all that together, I think has made something interesting and unique that has helped not just two, actually a lot of supporting cast as well, but two major characters in the DC universe in Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne, and made them that much more interesting.
I remember back when we initially had conversations about this stuff, dude, and because I was throwing out there, hey, it'd be kind of neat to have multiple. Oh no, we can't have multiple Batman. You know, and I still remember just
stupid idea.
Yeah, the passion and fire you have about how we can't have two. What? No, there's only one Batman. Bruce Wayne's Batman. So it's kind of funny to see. You know,
I said I loved it with the Flash. I said I loved it, with characters like the Green Lanterns and stuff like that where it works. But the Flash was the example I used. It works with the Flash. I'm like, I can deal with that. It's happened to Green Arrow. I liked it when we had Green Arrow and his son running around. I liked Team Arrow. I'm into that concept. I'm like, that's cool. That works for me. I didn't want to see it in the Bat books, and it works. I gotta say, it works really well. I really dig it.
And with this whole thing, you did get so many different identities changing in the Bat universe. And when they first happened, yeah, the skeptic in me was like, okay, how long is this going to last? The same way that I felt about Dick. Tim becoming Red Robin. I'm like, okay, the minute that Bruce is back, he'll be as Robin again, because that's the way it goes. And Damian will go off and do whatever Damian's going to wind up doing. Probably killing pigeons, because that's the type of personality that he has. When Stephanie became Batgirl, I was like, okay, how long is this going to last? Because, they got to bring back Cassandra eventually. And it looks like both of those are sticking, and I'm liking both of those titles. In fact,
yeah.
Batgirl is probably my favorite DC title right now.
Oh, it's so fun.
Oh, exactly. It has the same feel for me that, Young Justice did when I was growing up.
Good
It's a genuine good time every single time I read the book. And what's great about Red Robin is that you've got Fabian Nicieza on the book now, a guy who's very familiar with Tim, a guy who's written him before, and he's injecting the same feel and personality that the writer did before him. And it flows, it feels right, and it still feels like Tim, even though he's in a Red Robin outfit. And the most recent issue of Red Robin, I felt, was probably one of the most touching issues so far, because it was the establishment of moody, Tim Drake, Tim Wayne going out the window, because he was right all along. That was the whole concept of Red Robin, is that nobody believed him that Bruce was still alive. And when he was, when he was validated, when he was vindicated, that's when Tim realized he wasn't going crazy. He was right all along, and now he can actually be happy and fun again.
He came full circle on his own, which I really liked. I loved that the end result of that, when you're talking about how he was happy again, I love that he was in that place before Bruce came back. Because I think it shows, you talked about before, an evolution of these characters. I think the evolution of Tim Drake, to a certain extent, or Tim Drake coming back to who he is as his core, whatever, however you want to look at it. I love that the end result is we got to see Tim man up on his own. Yes, he had help of his friends and eventually got them to see what he was doing and stuff like that. But I really loved seeing that the end result was, it wasn't that Tim magically was healed when Bruce came back. It was, he had already gotten to that point, and then this happy moment that we see with Bruce is kind of an epilogue to his journey versus being the end game of it. And that was something I thought that was very well written in his book. And I agree with you that Fabian Nicieza really understands the character and what makes him work without ignoring everything that came for it. It wasn't just, bam, Tim's okay now. It was a gradual journey to Tim being okay now, which I think was, to me, a critical point of that series and why it's worked so well for me, was that it was a journey. I'm not a big fan of, bam, a character who was really angry last issue is all of a sudden great today. That's not life. That's not a real journey. It's not something we can all connect with or learn from, because nobody's journey works that way. And if they do, they're going to fall apart pretty quick soon afterwards, because that's not real. They're putting on a mask. In his case, he wasn't. We got to journey along with him, and I think that's connected us with the character even more, and that's some great writing.
Agreed.
Batgirl, actually, I do want to mention something about that series real quick. You mentioned the Young Justice comparison, which I think is, I never connected it that way until you said it, and I think that's such a spot-on comparison. Because I loved Young Justice, and it was always a book that I took very seriously. I thought that the character dynamic was great. It was fun, and a lot of times, when you put the fun label on a book, it's, a lot of people take that as being something where you're diminishing the book or something like that. I'm going to say it's just the opposite. I think it's very hard to do a fun book that is an intelligent and exciting read every month. Batgirl is very much that book. It is fun. Every single month, it makes me smile. Brent talked about Blue Beetle a little bit earlier, and we were joking around about the fact that we haven't done we always meant to do a Blue Beetle thing, and we never did it. But all kidding aside, that Batgirl book, there's a lot of great comparisons to what worked in Blue Beetle in Batgirl. That was another book that was fun. He was a fun character. I always looked at him as being like DC Spider-Man style character, not saying that they're clones or anything, but Batgirl has that vibe as well. What works in my favorite Spider-Man stories? Spidey's fun. He enjoys what he's doing. There's that part of him that jokes around. Yet you still have that sense of danger. You still have that sense of he's fighting the same kind of villains that the other people do, yet there's something a little brighter about it. There's something that, along the way during the fight, you're like, yeah, being a superhero is fun. and you don't always get that in comics. And it's great to have those books where they do it, because everybody's so angry. And they're all jaded because of life. And I like that. I actually, I love that about Bruce. I love that his life circumstances has made him gritty and grim and all that. But it stands out more when you've got a Batgirl like we have with Stephanie Brown because of it. And I do think it compares more to books like Blue Beetle, All New Adam, Young Justice, as being unique voices in the DC universe that you need to kind of round off the universe and, say that, hey, it's not always bad to be a hero. Sometimes it's just plain fun.
And I think Brent will agree that at least there's one part of the DC universe that's actually seeming to try to have some fun. Because I think it's pretty well documented that I've been a little bit soured on most of what's been going on in the DC universe over the past couple of months, mainly with the whole Green Arrow and Arsenal thing and all that. It just didn't feel right to me, and I stick by that. And people might have liked it, and that's great. If it's their cup of tea, that's fine. But for me, it was a way out the door, to maybe come back later and sample it. But the Bat books at this point are the only DC books that I'm picking up regularly, other than Rebels. And I think honestly, now that I think about it, that's kind of like the only ones that I'm reading on a regular basis, other than the Vertigo and what used to be Wildstorm books. So this is what I'm looking for out of the DC universe, not necessarily other stuff that's going on. So
have you been reading Green Arrow at all? The new Green Arrow by J.T.
I have
Krull?
not. No.
That's one. In all honesty, he's moved beyond. And I'm not taking anything away from what you said because, I mean, you're not the only person. A lot of conventions we've gone to, I know you've been at the conventions where people have been talking about what happened with Green Arrow's world and Arsenal and how that all happened. I would recommend highly you stay away from Titans if you didn't like the route that it all went down. I'm enjoying Titans, but if if that whole thing angered you, Green Arrow though is another one. Jim, I don't know, you might dispute me on this one. I think Ollie has come out of that from the event and come back to being more of the Ollie that we know and love.
He's not there yet, but he's coming around.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think J.T. Krull is crafting a book right now where he's taking Ollie back to his core, to the Oliver Queen that we're used to. So that's one that if you're missing an Ollie fix or something like that, I think you're going to find a Green Arrow. And it's something that I've seen him with his Teen Titans as well. He seems to really like these characters at their core, understands what the fans want from these characters, which I think is a pretty critical, who are the Teen Titans to the fans? Well, I think that's something that's been lost for a while. I think we're seeing that back again with J.T. Krull's new run. And there's only a couple issues in, but I think he gets it. And I think we're seeing that with his Green Arrow. But it was kind of like what I was talking about before with Red Robin's journey. You can't ignore what happened, especially for fans that were angered by it, to all of a sudden take Ollie and make him better, quote unquote. You can't wave a magic wand and say that, because I think that would anger fans who are already angry even more, in the sense to say, how can Ollie just be okay after what happened? What I love about what Krull's doing is Krull has put him on a journey where, because of the events that have happened in Star City, he had to kind of isolate himself. And we've seen him gradually building himself back to the Oliver Queen we've been used to, that we haven't seen in quite some time. So I love that it's organically going that way. I do feel by this issue that the most current issue, which I think was 6, I might be incorrect on that, and I'll correct in the show notes of it.
I think it was 5.
I'm almost positive 6 just came out. It doesn't matter. Whichever issue it is, I think he's done a great job of crafting a character that has taken a journey back to who he should be. He's a character, and you might want to. I would definitely recommend you don't touch. Oh, it is 6. Jim just pulled it out.
Okay.
The issue numbers are relevant. I do think he's a character, though, that he has taken a journey back to that. Stay away from Titans.
Stay away from Titans.
I like Titans.
No. The minute I found out about what happened in Titans, I'm like, okay, that's a book that I am never going to pick up, no matter how many people say it's positive or negative. That's just not my cup of tea at all.
Well, I can tell from your comments, I'm like, if you're looking for a brighter DC universe, you're not going to get it in Titans, because it's a villain's book. I mean, and Arsenal is a villain in that book. I mean, I won't sugarcoat it. So if you don't want to see him there,
I read Secret Six every month, and that's a villain's book, and I feel like I'm still getting brightness out of it, which is kind of weird to say considering that it's Secret Six. But Titans just would definitely not be my cup of tea.
Well, I actually don't want Titans to be Secret Six, because I think what's going to end up happening if you do that, it'll be Secret Six Light. I think the thing is, though, if you're a big Arsenal fan and you don't like seeing your hero become a villain, that's going to be something where you're going to have a lot of trouble with what's going on there. I think people who are fans of Tattooed Man as a hero would obviously have problems with that as well. I like the book. I mean, I'm not knocking Titans. I'm just giving for you, based on your comments, I'm like, I would not recommend Titans to you. Not because I dislike the book. I like what Eric Wallace is doing. I think Eric Wallace is obviously working with, this is where the DC Universe is at, so let me pull these characters because it's interesting for what I'm doing. So that's not a knock on what Eric Wallace is doing. Just based on your comments, though, I think there are certain books that you just need to listen to people sometimes and say, I might be liking this, but it's not a recommendation for you. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That doesn't diminish your own enjoyment for a book. I wouldn't do that because I'm doing you a disservice if I were to recommend that book to you, because it's not going to be your cup of tea.
And besides, I hold an all-new Adam grudge on that book for until the end of time.
Did you read the most recent issue of Secret Six?
No, but it's on my stack, and I'm happy because I kind of had a feeling it was coming because I know Gail mentioned that a few months back.
So yeah, well, I'll leave it at that. But
yeah,
I was very happy.
Yeah. But yeah, just ending it off there. I mean, Green Arrow, maybe I'll look back on it in trade like somewhere down the road, but it's definitely not going to be a single issue buy for me. But Teen Titans, I will agree that from issue 1, I haven't read issue 2 yet of his run, but it's been positive so far for me. It sort of saved Teen Titans from being cut because I was not enjoying the story anymore as nearly as much as I used to, and so far with the injection of Damian, I think that's bringing the fun back a little bit.
Let me give the creative team real quick for Batman Inc. #1, and we can kind of jump right into this issue and get everyone's comments on Batman Inc. in general. Creative team is the writers Grant Morrison, pencilers Yannick Paquette, the inker is Michael Lancome, colorist Nathan Fairbairn, letterer is John J. Hill, associate editor Janelle Siegel, editor Mike Martz, covers by J.H. Williams, Yannick Paquette, Michael Lancome, and Nathan Fairbairn. Batman created by Bob Kane. And I apologize for intense name butchery throughout that thing, because I'm sure there's like 5 or 6 people who I just really tore up their names. But
it's Grant Morrison, just so you know.
Yeah, that's right. This was a series, probably out of the whole batch, that I was so anticipating, because you knew that the whole Grant Morrison framework, this was going to be what was, every other series was going to be on some level interconnected to this. I knew they were going to be their own unique books with their own creative teams, which I've been really enjoying, but this was the one that was going to kind of set the tone for what does this world look like and why. And I think Ian, you mentioned, Ian and Brent, you both mentioned earlier the return. We're probably going to kind of organically talk about elements of the return throughout this discussion, because it really was the 0 issue of this. Really dug this issue right out of the starting gate. How did you guys feel? What were your general impressions and why? And Brent, I'll start with you. Of Batman Inc. #1, general impressions and why. What was it?
I liked it. I guess I just read it the other day, so I'd read some reviews online, and I guess the reviews made it seem more like they'd explain more what Batman Inc. was going to be about, and I thought there's a little bit less of that than what people made it out to be. But overall, I thought it was fun. I think Morrison's really getting a handle on what he wants to do with his storylines rather than draw them out. I think we're going to see the same thing as in Batman and Robin, where it's a couple issues here, a couple issues there. And I think for me, the way comics are now, that's a lot more enjoyable than trying to stick with something for 6 issues. You know what I mean? So, because I really enjoyed the way Batman and Robin has been for the last year and a half. 4 issues. I mean, delays aside from time to time, you can't deny the greatness of that series, reading a lot more. And I think Morrison is just getting better at packing more in. You think about all those issues in Batman and Robin, and he really packed in a lot of stuff in those issues. So I think he's getting really good and really tight at his storytelling, and I think it'd be interesting to see what he does next if they do give him the next event. Is it going to be tight? Is it going to be long? I think maybe he'll be the way of Brian Bendis and a couple issues here and call it done. But and I'd like to see more of that in general. But we'll see. Maybe his event, if he does an event or something like something on the stage of like Final Crisis, it'll be shorter issues or more focused, because it seems that's where Grant Morrison's been going the last year and a half with his issues. But I thought the art was amazing. I liked Yannick Paquette on the Weapon X Wolverine arc he did. It was really good. And it's just a different style of art, really kind of blocky. His Catwoman is amazing. But Bruce, just giving him that big, huge square jaw, I think is really effective. And especially if Dick shows up later on in the book, I think it's going to be really easy costumes aside, to tell who's who. Because I was reading Tony Daniels' issue yesterday, and I thought, Dick looks like Dick, but in the suit, he kind of still looks like Bruce. You know what I mean? So we'll see where it goes. But I really liked it. I'm interested to see where it goes from here.
Jim?
Oh, I'm definitely digging this stuff. This is kind of what I was kind of hoping we would get to see, kind of the more of an adventurer kind of side to Bruce Wayne as Batman. Just this opening where he's going out there, he's finding the quote-unquote first of the Batmen to be joining, the group, this Mr. Unknown, and just kind of seeing Bruce be a little bit more trusting to the people around him, Bruce being a little bit more open to the what's presented to him, and just the kind of just the funner aspect of him being Batman. But he still has that intensity. He still is Bruce Wayne. He still is Batman.
Funner's not a word.
Funner is a word. I was wondering if you were going to hit with that one.
It was much betterer.
Yeah. Gooder.
It's like nails on the chalkboard for me. Sorry, it's an occupational hazard.
It's not like English is my first language. Cut your okay? But seriously, though, actually, this kind of fun banter back and forth we just did here is the kind of stuff I was really glad to see in this series. And it wasn't just Bruce and Tim doing it, or Bruce and Dick doing it. It was Bruce and Selina doing it. And just he's going to be a little bit different than, he was in the past. He's not going to be the dark, brooding Batman who keeps secrets from everybody around him. And I'm glad to see that change in Bruce Wayne, but I'm not giving up Batman to do it. He's not going to be, who is this guy? You still will know that it's Bruce. You still will know that it's Batman, because he has some really cool, intense scenes in here, but there is still the human side to him.
And I still think there are going to be things that are on a need-to-know basis, which I love that. I agree with you that he's going to be more open and that we're going to be more willing to be trusting to the right people. But I still got that feel as well. Ian, what about you?
Well, it's funny. Going into this, I wasn't expecting to compare Batman Inc. to Paul Dini's detective run nearly as much as I did. And that's the feel that I got from this. It might have been because Selina was in it as well, but even with the art, I felt that Yannick Paquette was doing a little bit of a Dustin Nguyen style, but he always does. So they have very similar lines, and that might have been another reason for it. But this was just like a nice, plain, simple Batman and Catwoman story that was very clean. It didn't have many of the Grant Morrison tropes that I sometimes see in his books. Like there weren't that many weird, crazy, out there stuff going on. Lord Deathman is a character that. Probably only people that are familiar with the Batman manga actually know, because this is a Japanese creation that they're finally bringing into the regular Bat books. But it's a character that doesn't feel like he's that outside of the typical Batman norm, which is good. The overall story flowed very well. It was a good setup issue, because even though there was that issue 0, you still were able to get the basic idea of Batman Inc. here. I would have preferred Batman the Return be called Batman Inc. number 0, just because of what it was. But as a first issue, I felt that this issue really did a good job and set up the tone of the book very nicely.
I think it's funny when I was listening to Brent talk about the issue pacing of Batman and Robin and story arc pacing, where it was really, instead of being forced to, like, it's got to be 6 issues here, it's got to be 6 issues here, it's got to be 6 issues here, it's within those issues. It's okay to have 1 or 2 issue arcs, because that's what works for the particular story that's being told. I wasn't thinking that way at all until Brent was mentioning it. I'm like, that really is what's working for me. It's, the story is driving the length. It's whatever pacing you need to have to tell a just really nice, well-paced story. And I think that's really important. And Brent was really keying on something that I wasn't on my radar until Brent was saying it. But I do think that that's something that I really liked about the feel of this. I really felt this issue was just very nicely paced. all the way through. And nothing felt like it was stretched out. Nothing felt like it was smashed together. It just felt like this is a story where this is what Grant's telling. It's got a really nice, pleasant pace. Right action beats where they need to be. Right setup pieces. Everything is just, and there's adventure and there's fun. We talked about fun when we were talking about Batgirl. This was a fun issue for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I didn't lose Bruce in there anywhere. I was smiling throughout this thing from ear to ear. There was jokes and banter where it was appropriate, yet at the same time, Bruce is still the same scary dude he's always been. And that's something where I think that's a hard balance to keep. And I appreciated the balance. Because I think, to me, it added a little bit of a different flavor. And Brent's right. This is exactly what worked in Batman and Robin. Yet, I don't feel like this is Dick Grayson here. And it's agreeing with Brett as far as the art, but it's not just the art. I also think it's the dialogue and the storytelling. This isn't Grant Morrison trying to force Bruce Wayne into a Dick Grayson role. This is Grant understanding, I'm writing a different guy now. And this different guy is going to behave a little bit differently. And there's reasons why, and there's motivations behind it, and really understanding at the core. And I think that's going to add to when we see, which inevitably we've got to see Dick Grayson in this book. The art and the combination of the dialogue and the way they carry themselves, those are going to be special moments because of the visual and dialogue distinctions that I think are just going to work brilliantly in this, because Grant has shown that he understands both characters so well. So this was a home run hit right out of the starting gate for me in a way that I didn't expect. I didn't expect this tone in the book. I was expecting it to be much darker than it was. And I think we might as well let's kick off talking about Mighty Lord Deathman. I've got to admit, it's a character I knew from the Bat manga, but it had been so long since I knew the character that when I first saw it, I'm like, what? Who? And then I thought the name was lame at first, but then by the end of the story, after we saw the whole thing, I loved it. Mr. Unknown definitely puts his hands in the wrong bowl of Palmolive, although one could argue that his
I was
hands...
going to say, that was definitely the wrong kind of acid trip.
Yeah, but the hands are quite a bit softer than before, and he didn't even have to do dishes. So, I mean, it all worked for me on that end. If your fingers are sent to hell, now I do have this question. If your fingers are sent to hell, do they really wait for you? Or do you think they're going to secretly resent you for putting them in peril to begin with?
I think they're going to be playing taps in hell until you're there.
You just hear the drum sound kind of as they're just waiting for you. Come on, let's go.
Or I always felt that Mr. Unknown's fingers could, be a little more diva and do like the talk to the hand thing with the rest of him when he comes down. But then I could be just judging the book by the cover, so I don't know.
Maybe. But was I the only one that got a Green Hornet vibe off of Mr. Unknown and his sidekick?
Oh,
Yes.
big time.
Yeah. Okay, good. Just checking, because that's totally what I thought at first. It's like, wow, I guess they're taking Green Hornet off the table right away, because I don't think he's going to be doing much without his hands or his face.
But the kid working with him, I'm guessing the decoy is going to be the new Mr. Unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's got to be that way. And kind of curious, it was funny because I was laughing that I get this introduction to this character by killing him off. Here's Mr. Unknown.
Well, he's been in
now
before.
dead. See, I did.
Remember back with the Batman that all met together and all that? He was one of them.
I completely forgot about that. Going
was?
into this,
Yeah.
He
and
was
just
in the J.H. Williams arc?
Yeah, way back when they had all the Batmen that met on the island, that kind of led up to...
I think you're mistaking him for the Argentine guy. Because he said it in the issue, like, maybe Argentina next after Japan. And I think that's the guy with he looks like a musketeer kind of thing.
Yeah. You know what? Brent, I think you're right. I think you're 100% correct. That may be where I'm jumping off. I'm thinking of him instead of Mr. Unknown.
Yeah, because they do have very similar looks, so I could see why the mistaken identity was there.
Yeah.
And was I the only one that when Lord Deathman spoke, I heard Dr. Orpheus from Venture Brothers every single time. Like, they are in hell, awaiting the rest of you.
I'm hearing it now. I didn't then, but
I didn't hear it then. And see, I kind of heard the James Earl Jones kind of that deep voice kind of that
Really?
Darth Vader sound.
Simba.
Well, I was thinking more Darth Vader, okay, not
This is CNN.
Simba, you've forgotten your way.
It's just when your name is Lord Deathman, it's hard to actually give him a very deep voice in my mind. You know, that's why I was totally thinking Dr. Orpheus, because it's like that's the type of villain that Orpheus would probably have to deal with on a regular basis. Somebody named Lord Deathman.
Have we seen, and this is a question I have for you guys, have we seen the real Lord Deathman, or have we seen decoys of him? Are those bodies, dead bodies, inside that outfit that are being... Because with what we see at the end, I know I'm jumping to the end of the issue, but I guess seeing as we're bringing him on the table and talking about his voices and MO and stuff like that, we see at the end this bit where he's shoved out the window. Wires are coming down with him and stuff like that, which I was assuming were outside wires. But then that lead me to wonder, because you see when that body's laying in the street, there's a wire that's there. What if that wire was holding up that body? And the voice coming out of it was a voice coming from... Because they didn't kill Lord Deathman. There's no way.
No.
Because it's really, to me, the whole point of what Lord Deathman did. Let's take a look at what he did to Mr. Unknown. He's completely gone out of his way to have his henchmen destroy not only him physically, his legacy, any possibility that anybody else can build any inspiration from Mr. Unknown. Because when you kill somebody that horrifically, the idea behind it is to use him as a symbol as far as why all Japanese crime fighters should go underground, they should run away, they should give up, or they're going to, be killed. Kill all Japanese crime fighters is the theme there. I don't think at the end of this issue we saw the death of Lord Deathman. That's just my thinking. Either that or he's a meta and we're going to see him get up, but I don't see that happening there. What do you guys think, though? Do you guys have a feeling on that right now, what's going on? Are you still confused on that? Because I'm not 100% sold either. But before I was thinking maybe we got some kind of meta. Now I'm wondering.
I don't know. He'll probably be back. I mean, he's still lying in a pool of blood, but, I mean, maybe he didn't lose all, 7 pints or something like that. And Batman seems pretty preoccupied with Catwoman and the tentacle thing, which I have to bring up. I thought the... Catwoman reading the anime, and it was the tentacle and the girl, and just having that look on the background on one of the panels, just kind of like, ugh. And then just like him some foreshadowing, and then she ends up with the tentacle.
Like, she was like, not my cup of tea. But then you see 2 other panels where she's still drawn to it.
Yeah. It's like,
I thought that was priceless.
You can't look away.
Yeah.
This can't be unseen.
Well, but I can't remember. Was that before or after? Like, did that kill Catwoman's mood, you think, or was that after that?
No, I thought that was wasn't that before?
Was it before? And then she was still like, meow.
No, you're right. It was after. It really was after.
It was after, okay.
Yeah, because it was right after they had been together in that apartment. Then they or the hotel.
They were in the comic book shop, which was Mr. Unknown's lair. So that's where she saw the anime there.
Right.
I just like the fact that Grant had him shown being a playboy. Kind of acting, living up to the role. Not really doing it in public. Yeah, they got off the plane together, that kind of thing. But, actually showing him having a relationship or something of the sort, I thought was kind of nice.
It's less of the separation between Bruce and Batman here. It feels less of a character that he's playing and a little bit closer to what I like, where they are the same person. They're just 2 sides of the same coin.
Except, I'm going to be cautious about the Playboy comment, because I actually agree it's more like he's having fun and enjoying life and doing those moments, but I didn't take it as the Playboy like he's stringing around like 8 or 9 girls. I took it that there is something going on between him and Selina. Not that they have this deep, like they're exclusive or anything like that, but yet this definitely plays off of, it felt a lot of what I liked about their relationship in Hush. Selina didn't lose any beats. She's not just following around like a puppy or anything like that. She's very strong. She's very much herself. Everything that I love about Selina, the witty banter, you mentioned it before, Jim, between the 2 of them, I think worked so well all the way through. I felt she was very strong. Brent, I agree with what you said earlier. Very sexy drawing of Selina. While not going too over the top, she looks physically fit. She looks like a girl who does what she does, running around on the streets and being this good guy thief that she's been. But I love the fact that it felt like there was a bond between the 2 of them as well, that this was not a throwaway moment for him. He was enjoying life a little bit more, enjoying the finer things a little bit more. This is a relationship that could potentially lead to something more, yet I don't feel this urgency that it has to go there now. I would love to see more of these two together, because what I really loved about it is it felt very different than what you see when Dick and Damian are together, or Bruce and Red Robin as well together. Both of those relationships, because of the fact that it's a female and there is a tension between the two of them, but it's not overdone. And that's something that I think is a key, the balance between the two, that they have these intimate moments in a way where it doesn't take away from the urgency of what's going on around them. And it goes back to what I said about balance earlier. Jim, you wanted to say something?
Well, for me, one of the things I really liked was that Selena came here with her own secret identity. If that airport scene, they're calling her the heiress to that cosmetic fortune and all that stuff. She wasn't Selena Kyle. So, which I was like really digging that, because everybody knows Selena Kyle is Catwoman. They know Catwoman and Batman have a thing. So here you got to protect Selena so that people don't know that that's Catwoman hanging out with Bruce Wayne. I was like, that for me was a really, okay, this is nice. This is a cool kind of, little thing added on. It was just, in one of the news clips when they're sitting in that hotel hanging out. And it's attention to detail, little stuff like that I like seeing.
One thing that we kind of passed over that I'd like to talk about real quick, the action sequence with Jiro the decoy, the first time we see him, I really loved the visual way that played out. It was a great moment where we got to see this kid. The kid is ducking a bat, keeping his eye on the first opponent, making sure not to spill the coffee, while grabbing a bottle with his free hand. It's the stuff I truly enjoyed in Jackie Chan's early movies. Where you got to see all this stuff going, and yet it's like you're like, wow, look at all the things he's doing and all that stuff, and you're captivated by all of it, and yet at the same time, it's cartoony and over the top, yet for some reason, it just doesn't cross that line. It all worked, and I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. Then he gets up and he's splashing the coffee and he's breaking the bottle and he's doing all these things. And all these motions, when they're happening, it was funny how it felt for me, very much like it was fluid. Full motion. I was watching this unfolding, yet it was happening in a very short amount of panels. I was seeing a lot more in my mind happening than what they were showing me on the page. And I thought it was something where it was a great marriage of great script and great visual styling in the story, knowing what to put on the page to throw something in my head where I fill in the blanks. And I really wanted to note that sequence because I just thought it was cool. And the way that it played out, I saw a lot more in my head than what they put on the page, and I really thought that was something that was a key to that moment because it looked awesome.
Well, that was definitely a case of Kato being Kato. I mean, this is everything I hope is going to wind up happening in that Green Hornet movie.
I think, Grant, and I think we're going to see this in this book, different locations are going to have vastly different ways of telling the story, vastly different ways of laying out the action, and I really think this creative team as a whole, not just the writing, the art, they just really understand how to capture a mood and a place and a tone. That added the adventure aspect to this to me. Jim?
For me, the lead-in to that action sequence was, absolutely wonderful. It was a couple panels. They didn't really need to have it, but it was just that setup. You show the background sequence, and you show him walking along. He's even whistling, like, just taking his time, and then, bam, he's right into the action. Bam, he's scrambling and he's moving. I like the fact that they took that couple extra panels just to kind of just get you into that feeling of that nice la 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 kind of everything is calm and everything's fine, and it's not.
The nice what?
La la la.
Okay.
But I do wonder if this is what you want, Ian. If this is how you want to see this out of the Green Hornet, do you want to see Seth Rogen's face melted off then?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
I like Seth Rogen perfectly fine in comedies. I just don't think he's going to work very well as a Green Hornet.
Bruce's theory that Mr. Unknown might respect that Bruce worked out his identity fits on a number of levels. The major one for me is that Bruce respected Tim's ability to work out his identity. His assuming that a fellow crime fighter would also respect that, kind of a comrades meeting, I've worked so hard to keep this identity together and you were able to discover it, and appreciating the process that Bruce went through and leading that to a discussion point where you connect, just to something that really just made sense for me. Do you think that Bruce will be revealing his identity to those he recruits? Or will he do this on a need-to-know basis? What are your guys' thoughts? And Brent, I'll go to you first. How do you see Bruce doing this?
I think it's almost too much of a risk for him to do it. I think it might be a need-to-know, but I think it'll be more about, here I am, I'm Batman. But I mean, honestly though, if Batman's coming to you saying, "Hey, you're joining a team," and then Bruce Wayne announces, "Yeah, we're supporting Batman," it's kind of a little suspicious. So anybody who's kind of not, putting two together isn't that bright and isn't worthy of being on the team, I think.
Very good point,
that's
actually.
facts.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking that route with it. I was thinking at first that, Bruce would make that decision. But you're right. If you're a member that's worthy of this team, with what Bruce has revealed and then the fact that he came to you, you've got to start putting two to two together. And the fact that Bruce is in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all signs point to, and if you're not deducing that well, maybe you should be on the Antarctica team or whatever it is.
Team Quebec.
Here's the thing.
Quebec. That'd be the Madagascar faction of Batman Inc.
Oh God.
Bwana
I like
Beast.
to move it. She like to move it. You
Oh,
like to
no.
move it.
Batman Inc. on Madagascar.
You had to mention
Shirtless.
Madagascar.
Shirtless Jim, big tiki necklace, loincloth, really big loincloth.
Like a loincloth big enough to fit the entire body. Yeah.
like a Barney Flintstone kind of thing. Or Fred
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Barney Flintstone. I like how you just gay married them. That's great.
All right.
Serious comment, though. I think, the fact that Bruce is doing this stuff is going to help protect the identity. I always thought that why didn't people think Bruce Wayne would do something about this? Why wouldn't people think Bruce Wayne, was Batman because of all the neat toys? Because of, if you look at Bruce Wayne's past, you see the tragedy as a childhood. You see all this stuff. So for me, it would make more sense that, now that before Bruce declared his association with Batman, people would start thinking maybe Bruce Wayne is Batman. Now, you see Bruce Wayne in Japan and you see Batman in Japan, you're going to think it's just a Batman Inc. thing. Bruce is there. Batman came with him, on the plane, basically probably as personal security or whatnot, and that's why there's, a Batman and Bruce Wayne in the same country. This, for me, is a better explanation as to, a better protection of the secret identity than an actual declaration of it.
It's a better caveat for things in the past, People think that, Bruce Wayne is Batman. Oh, well, actually, Bruce Wayne's been financing Batman this whole time.
Yeah.
So anytime in the past before this announcement was made, people can go, oh, yeah, it was just that. And nothing different.
And let me clarify that. I'm agreeing with Brett in the sense that talking about people like a Mr. Unknown or something like that they should figure it out based on the fact that, Bruce Wayne's running it and all that. I'm not talking about the general public. I think that there's a huge distinction between people that are worthy of being on Batman Inc., which is, I think, what Brent was alluding to before, and I agree with him 100%, and the general public. The general public shouldn't be figuring it out. But I think,
Right.
When somebody's being approached, whether they're going to mention it outwardly or not, I think Bruce is probably going to assume, hey, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, you know what I mean? I think we're going to be seeing a lot of stuff like that, where maybe we won't get the actual reveal, but there's a nod and a respect that's mutual there as far as understanding identities and what's going on. And I think that's what Brent was alluding to, and I 100% agree with him.
Well, but before Tony Stark revealed himself as Iron Man, most people just accepted that Iron Man was his bodyguard.
Right.
And that's the same sort of relationship that probably the general public is going to assume is happening with Bruce Wayne and Batman, because why would this, gajillion-dollar playboy want to put on bat tights at night and run around? He's got better things to do.
I was not comfortable with that at first in the end of Return. When that happened. Now that when I've actually seen the issues afterwards, I'm starting to really like it. But when I saw that at first, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I kind of like Bruce Wayne being the unassuming, people think that he's a dolt, and he's all about the party versus, and occasionally he surprises you with being alert in the boardroom. I kind of like that aspect about him. This is a great example of where I needed to get used to Grant Morrison evolving the idea of of the character, and I really like that. And I don't have a problem with a writer taking me someplace uncomfortable with a character it's going to make me uncomfortable at first. And I was unsure about it. I was just having confidence that, kind of like what Brent said about how Batman and Robin's been so great, and I've loved the pacing of it. I'm like, well, he's really hitting it out of the park for me in general, so I'm just going to trust the guy knows what he's doing, and it is. It's delivering for me. It's working and all that. But I was not comfortable with it at first at the end of Return. When I read it, I'm like, ooh, ugh. I don't know. I didn't hate it. So I wasn't in that place. I was uncomfortable. There's a huge distinction between being uncomfortable with something and hating it, but I was like, whoa, really?
Actually, the one problem I had with The Return was that whenever Lucius talked, all I could hear was Morgan Freeman, because of the way that all of a sudden they turned Lucius Fox into the character he was in the Bat movies, and he's never entirely been that in the comics before. So that's the one problem that I really had with Batman: The Return. I wasn't nearly as iffy about his appearance as the backer of Batman, because since they were already establishing that was okay. It's just it'll take me a little longer to get used to Lucius Fox being in the role that he's in now.
I would have liked to have seen, and I don't know how much you want to put this in the comic. Like I think we would have enjoyed it. I don't know that every fan would have wanted that kind of pacing put into the book. But as a longtime reader, I would read a one-shot about Lucius Fox and Bruce and love to see, how did they arrive at this point? Because there is a story to be told there, to how that evolved into where he's at then. I think if you show something in a book where you can show us how Lucius Fox and Bruce got from A to B, and Lucius is a little bit more involved in all this and how it all happened, I think we would both be... I agree with you, is what I'm saying, basically. I just would like to see a little bit more. I think there's a way, storytelling-wise, to evolve him to that. I had no problem with him being there, as much as I would like to see how he got there. I feel there's a story to be told. And that's just me being the completist. I love to see that stuff that sometimes... This is clearly stuff that happened off camera that I want to see on camera. But that's me, and I don't think we're going to see it.
Right.
Honestly, I don't care. Commissioner Gordon, yeah, sure, but... Come on, guys, it's Lucius Fox. He's never been taken seriously until the Batman movies, and they cast Morgan Freeman. If it was Morgan Freeman and anybody else, we wouldn't care.
That's not true. Lucius has had more of a role, and especially if you look back at the Brubaker and Ed Rucka runs, Lucius Fox had a very prominent role in the Bat books during that time, especially with running Wayne Enterprises then. It's been a while, and I agree with you that it's been quite a long time since we've seen Lucius in a prominent role, so I will actually take that back a little bit and say I agree with you in that extent. But it is a geeky... This is going off of where you're going with this, Brent. I will agree with this is a very geeky discussion, which is why I even said I don't think everybody would want to see this. I want to see it. But that doesn't mean that it is for everybody. That's why I even used the term one-shot, because I think it would just literally be for the fans that care, which is like, Brent, like you're saying right now, you're one of them that doesn't. Let's move on. and you're actually proving my point, and you're 100% correct.
Well, what about in between, like his appearances in Red Robin and his appearance in Batman: The Return? Lucius Fox seems to have lost 40 pounds and stopped using hair dye.
Does that?
Because he looks like Morgan Freeman now.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's the part that frustrates me a little bit. That he showed up like 2 issues ago in Red Robin, looking entirely different. And now he looks like Morgan Freeman. Like if they had gradually done it, if they had established it for about 5 or 6 issues before it or whatever. Yes, because I am the sad nerd that I am. I am the sad nerd that I am, and I'll probably be looking for that.
Rogaine has side effects, and so does hair dye and stuff like that. So it's like that's what happened.
Yes, totally. Bruce Wayne paid for his Bowflex. That's exactly what happened. All right, I'll stop talking now.
I can't believe you're paying attention to hairstyle.
A little better than a Bowflex.
I do. It is funny. It is funny though. I noticed immediately that he was Morgan Freeman, but then if you've seen his appearances since, it's kind of he's back to like a hybrid of the two. So I think it was really just the artistic choice for that. I would be curious to see what he appears like in other books, if there's going to be a consistency to him. The look didn't bother me as much as and it didn't really bother me, because bother's a strong word. I just want to see the story. and I do like to see that. I mean, and we don't always get those, and I don't care. And I'm with Brent in the sense that I'll just move along, because he's right. Am I really reading the book for Lucius? No, I'm not. So I am going to easily just move along and enjoy the adventure of Bruce's story, but it is a key thing from the whole thing where I'm like, oh, hey, how does he know this now?
In that case, I'll start writing my Lucius Fox fan fiction right now.
I would read it.
Oh, so you would be the one. That's good.
Yeah, both of us. We would.
And they'd love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
5 stars. Fanfiction.net.
You hear movement, and I like that bit where they heard movement in Yokohama. That bit banter you talked about earlier, Jim. The relationship between Bruce and Selena and how it was joking around, yet never took away from the seriousness. They're investigating this crime scene of what happened to this guy. And Bruce, I love that Bruce is analyzing the whole thing, but you can tell this is something that's affecting him personally. To approach somebody to be a part of Batman Inc., you're basically not just trusting. They're going to keep, and I agree with Brent, more of the badge idea with the whole thing. They're going to keep their MO and stuff like that. I think we're going to see some places where the person doesn't really have an MO, where they might take on more of a Batman-like role. But I agree with Brent. Like, this has been established that this is a character who's very important in Japan. To take away their identity doesn't always work. Sometimes you want to just build upon it and make them a part of Batman Incorporated and use that badge as a way to kind of step it up a bit versus taking away from the hard work that was already put into place. So it's a respected colleague who Bruce was approaching for this honor, which, I mean, for Bruce to give up the role to Dick Grayson, for, Bruce to be labeling these people and saying, hey, you're going to be a part of this bigger project that I have now. And this is a guy who doesn't do this, is now taking this on. It's a tremendous honor to be approached by Bruce for this. And I don't think any of them are actually going to realize how much of an honor it is unless they knew Bruce personally and understood how huge a change this is for him to be trusting people.
Right.
I think that's something that for me really worked here. And I would not want to be, you hear footsteps and all that other stuff, I would not want to be the footsteps. I loved how that action sequence played out. Yes, there was some joking between Bruce and Selena, but Bruce's anger was genuine, and I loved seeing how he used the anger in those fight sequences, but didn't cross the line. Yeah. Control. That's what Bruce is about. It's okay to have anger. It's okay to have those emotions. A true martial artist, a true person like that, knows how to control and channel those emotions properly, appropriately, and not losing yourself in them. We saw that in that sequence. I thought it added to me my respect of what Bruce is all about and my respect for this veteran with control, things like that. That sequence was beautiful. It was absolutely brilliant. And Selena playing off him in those bits, how there was, Bruce is like, it's okay for us to still have the banter between the two of us because it keeps us alert, it keeps us focused on each other and what we're doing, and keeps us from losing ourselves in the anger of what's happened at the moment. But I do love that he was pissed, because that's something I thought that was a key.
You could see it in his language as well. This is for Mr. Unknown, and then he kicks him so hard that he sees the curvature of the earth.
I like in the fight sequence, and we also saw this earlier when they were breaking into Sivan's laboratory, where Bruce trusts Selena to know what she can do and what she can't do. It's not he's not falling into that typical stick where he puts himself in danger to protect the poor innocent little woman. No, she can throw down just as well as anybody else, and he knows that, and he knows what she can do, and he's letting her do her thing while he's doing his thing as well. It was more than just funny banter. It was great team combo dynamic type fighting, and that was something that really impressed me. We get some really good Bruce and Tim fight sequences, and now Dick and Damian have some cool fight sequences. Here, this was a great combo, effort by Bruce and Selena, and I thought that was something that I really, was enjoying to seeing, and just I was really into it. I'm getting more and more into her as a person, her as a character, her as being part of Bruce's life than I ever was before. And especially, like that follow the money one-shot kind of deal that came out.
Howard Chaykin.
Yeah, Howard Chaykin. He knew exactly, he provided the exact same type of energy that I like seeing between these two, and is getting me on the Bruce and Selena camp kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jim, it feels like, and this is coming back to my previous statement that Paul Dini really started this again. Mm-hmm. That with his issues of Detective, we really started to get that that back and forth between Bruce and Selina going again after being cold for a couple of years. And it's continued here in this book really, really well.
And there's something sexy about it. There's something fun about it. And neither character loses anything. And I think that's really, it's a hard balance where you want to move forward a relationship between the two of them, which is what they're clearly doing here. And yet, at the same time, how far is too far? We don't want to, you don't want to lose what makes Selina cool. Because, she's got her own thing going on in Gotham City Sirens. And I want to see more of the team up between the two of them. I want to see more of this relationship develop. I think it really works. It adds just a slightly different dynamic. Obviously, we're going to be reading a lot of Batman solo stories. We're going to be talking about, I know on your show, The Dark Knight book that's coming out by Finch. And I'm really excited to talk and see what that book looks like, which I'm guessing from everything I've been reading, it's going to be solo stories with Bruce, probably a lot more gritty, just Bruce. So this is nice to see as a distinction from that. And I really, if you're going to be doing this many Batman books, you need to have a distinction between each one. There needs to be some kind of really strong hook in each one, something that's a real draw that makes them feel unique, special, valid, and warranted. And this book feels very much that for me because of the relationships with Bruce. And we're going to see Bruce not only interact with Selina, but obviously these other Batman characters. But she's somebody that I want to see her as a regular fixture in the book because I really think Morrison understands, and the artist clearly understands Selina. And there is a key there. Physically strong, looks very healthy, fit, muscular, it's got those right moments, yet there's a sexiness there. You got to have the right combination of both. And it was just a home run of this character again that it was. I did not expect to be so focused when I was reading Batman Incorporated on the character of Catwoman. And she really was well done in this book.
Yeah, and I love the bits about the water too. It's like, yeah, no, I'm with you anywhere you go, but if there's water, no, thank you. And then of course, what does there wind up being? Water.
And like Brett mentioned earlier, anime monster.
Yeah. Because every good trip to Japan needs at least one tentacle monster. I mean,
yes,
come on.
Yes.
You think about it, they've mentioned in the various Japanese comic books and whatnot, where they're referring to Japan, they always get the attacks of the giant monsters. They always have that happen to them, and so you have to have a giant monster. I loved it. When I first saw it, I was like, huh? And then it took me like half a second of thinking about it, going, okay, this is neat. This is kind of funny. And then especially the reread-throughs with just the, throwing it out there, the water references. I really liked seeing that, but it was even just the lead into it. That moment where, the sidekick, goes and shoots him. And she's like, what'd you do? He's the only one who can stop this. And bam. It was just that nice lead into the funny ending moment. But even before that, there was that nice seriousness.
See, and the segment that you're talking about is pivotal to me. Because upon rereading that, I looked at this in a very different way. Especially with seeing some wires and things like that, and whether or not the wires were really associated with the character or not. Here's the thing. Lord Deathman was egging him on the entire time to break his code. You don't kill. You need to break that code. And it's been clear from the MO in the beginning that Lord Deathman's about not just killing the character, it's about destroying the legacy, destroying the way that character views themselves inside and out, and how the general public views that person. My question is that body Lord Deathman? Is that somebody else, some other victim? And was that person already dead? Was that person not? Who was shot? And how is this guy going to deal with the fact that when he shot that person, if it's not Lord Deathman, that it's not Lord Deathman? You pull off that mask, what if it's somebody else underneath there? That adds a whole new wrinkle to this thing. How is Bruce going to help that person through it? Mm-hmm. My personal feeling is it's going to turn out whoever was under there was already dead. And that's going to be, kind of the expert. This person was already dead. Lord Deathman already did this and all that. But still, you don't, he pulled out a gun and shot at the person. How's Bruce going to feel? Because that really goes against Bruce at the core. So it's going to be interesting to see where this story goes. And is this person still going to be a part of Batman Inc.? Is Bruce going to push this person to be better than what they were when that happened at those moments? I don't know. There's a lot of questions that are on the table because of that pivotal moment when it happened. I'm heavily leaning to the fact that was not actually Lord Deathman. That's my take on the whole thing.
Well, and it was like way too theatrical at the end there for me. You know, for it to actually have been Lord Deathman, because he seemed to actually be putting on a show more than he was actually being menacing. You know, with the hand outstretched, like, ha ha ha, will you shoot Lord Deathman? Will you? You know, it's like he was egging him on way too much, because if he was going to shoot him, Lord Deathman was probably going to wind up dead. So if it was the actual Lord Deathman, why would you want to kill yourself as part of your plan?
But when you go back to the beginning and reread, the beginning becomes very theatrical.
Yeah.
When you look at it from that standpoint.
Yeah,
so it's
right.
It all fits like very much the MO of the character, and it really is about destroying at the core what Mr. Unknown was about. And clearly, it's not just about destroying Mr. Unknown, it's all Japanese crime fighters. But I don't think it's killing them just as far as just physically killing them. It's killing everything they stood for, everything they are all about, and really making a point to say nobody else should consider doing this. Do not be inspired by this, because look what it's going to do to you and everything you're all about. Right. So it worked on so many levels, and it really took this mighty Lord Deathman as a character at the beginning. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And by the end, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a cool villain.
The one panel right after he gets shot and goes out the window, I love the look on one of the Skull Thug's face. He's kind of got the, what do we do now kind of look as he's looking out the window going, that wasn't supposed to happen kind of deal.
Yeah, it's like, are we still going to get paid?
Yeah, exactly. There's no way this is the actual real Lord Deathman. Because, one, it's, the scenes for next, issues talk about Lord Deathman lives to take life, and he's only just begun. So there's something else going on here. I'm thinking that was all just a giant marionette type of deal, and that was probably the person who has the apartment below that became the giant octopus tank. Yeah, because that person's somewhere.
Oh, man. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. But yeah, they must have had to have converted a full apartment into that octopus tank. Unless it's been like that all along. Unless that was part of the package deal.
Well, they mentioned it when Giro shows up and he runs into the landlady or something like that, saying like, "There's some water leaking coming down. What's going on?" Oh, well, that's what it is.
I love the visual layout at the end with, Jim, you were talking about that Lord Deathman lives to take a life and he's only just begun. Can Batman solve the Reaper's riddles? I loved how it feels like closing credits, but it didn't end there. It ends with this great single-page spread, I should say, of Catwoman in that moment. Find out next month in Batman Inc. I love that each of these books, it was something that I really appreciated in last week's Detective Comics. I like that each of these books have very unique visual styles. And it was something I thought throughout this, I'm like, wow, it has a flavor that is unique to Batman Incorporated. It was some of my favorite animated series throughout history that I've enjoyed. What I've really liked about them is from the opening credits till the end, from the drawing to the storytelling to everything, they have unique art styles and approaches, and it's something this felt very much what I like about an animated series that's really good. The ones that really stand out for me as ones that I've appreciated, whether they're Japanese or American or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's been that where there's something unique and it feels like they really kicked it up a notch versus it being a studio piece where it's like 5 other cartoons they've already done in the past. It has that unique flavor, and this has that. And I'm glad to see a lot of these Batman books that are coming out are having that kind of approach of really kind of like, what is our book going to be special? How's that going to be unique? And this is one of those that works for that, for me, for one of those reasons.
Mm-hmm. Well, going back a little bit to the Lord Deathman stuff, and this does tie into what you were saying about how it has a different feel, is that there is also the possibility that Lord Deathman is indeed the cheesy villain that he was in the manga, and that this is the end of Lord Deathman because he was just that, silly of a character to start with, that he thought he was going to be able to survive taking on all of the Japanese heroes.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. You know, maybe this is part of that, because with the end here, I mean, those, you know, Lord Deathman lives to take life, and he's only just begun. I mean, you could hear the voice of the narrator in the Batman TV show, you know, in your head all the way throughout this here. It's like, maybe this is just the tone that Grant Morrison is going for this specific art.
I would have zero issue with that. That would be really funny. Sure, next week, Lord Deathman's dead.
Yep, nice little swerve for you. There you go.
Yeah, I guess I'm just so convinced because Morrison's been, going back to what Brett was saying about his Batman and Robin run, I think one of the things that I really liked about it is Morrison's created characters that, whether he uses them again or not, are characters that have been so richly developed that they hopefully can be used again. So I know that Lord Deathman, we are pulling from manga, but I kept wondering if, like, you know, he's building a character that somebody could use again, and beyond just this arc, or including himself. So I don't know. It's but you're right. There's a very real possibility that's actually him, and he's dead.
Because you know, I mean, even with the look on Selina's face at the end, she's like, you almost expect her to like outstretch her hands, going like, "Oh boy, what wackiness is going to happen next issue?"
It could be a South Park thing.
And this is, of course, the issue that makes Brent love manga so much, right, Brent?
So much.
This will obviously get you to read so much more of it.
So much more. I feel like Selena sometimes. Not just with, I can't unsee it, but what the...
Guys, is there anything else you wanted to mention? I'll go to you, Brent, first. Anything else about Batman Inc. or just this current Batman climate that you wanted to say that you didn't have a chance to?
I love the current Batman climate, and we were talking about before, you know, about the different DC universe, and okay, Wonder Woman's kind of got me intrigued, but now that JMS is leaving the book, it was kind of like, oh, well, now what kind of thing. It just left... I feel like the DC universe is in a better place because Batman is so focused right now. And some of the other titles, I mean, whether, yes, they're continuing with other writers like the JMS stuff, but it's not going to be as focused as it was, and who knows what it could have been kind of thing. So I think it's good that the Batman line of books is so healthy right now. And, you know, that's why we're seeing the influx of all these other books. I'm just kind of wondering where Streets of Gotham is going to end up, because I kind of feel like it, you know, once this Heart of Hush story ends, I think it's going to end, honestly. Because Dini has been so intermittent on issues, and I think he's leaving... Isn't he leaving Gotham City Sirens as well? So
he's already. I feel like he's already left Gotham City Sirens because I remember I don't remember the last issue he was on of Gotham City Sirens. Zatanna he's on Zatanna monthly, but I think he left Gotham City Sirens. I'm guessing I might be wrong on that one, but I think he's moved to Zatanna. And I'm personally hoping, because of a lot of what was said earlier about Dini's Detective, I really liked it. So I'm hoping that after Heart of Hush, we get a chance for maybe him to do some done-in-one or some short arcs using Batman. And I don't care if it's Bruce or Dick or a combination of the two, you know, depending on the kind of stories he wants to do. But I always thought that was the strength of his detective run, was that he did these kind of unique done-in-one stories where there was a kind of an over-arc that kind of went through the whole thing. But yet the stories were... It's a lot what I like about Jonah Hex. I think it worked very well in Batman storytelling. A lot of that echoes what you said earlier, Brent, about what was working in Batman and Robin. I don't think that every writer has to stick to, you know, your 6-issue arcs. I think the story should dictate the length of the arc. And that could also mean that instead of shorter stories, in some cases the writer needs longer stories to be able to completely tell with the right pacing their story. I don't care either way. To me, the story should also always drive the length of the arc. I really loved when you made that mention of that earlier, because it wasn't really something that was on my mind, but I think it really is a key to what's working in these books right now, is that they feel that the pace is being set by whatever story is there, and that's why I think the books are also feeling different. But I don't know, that's a book that I'm wondering what's going to happen to it as well, because this Hush storyline, I'm glad that it's going on because I want to see a wrap-up of what's been going on with that character. I am very interested to see where that book's going to go from there. There hasn't been any talk, has there? Have you guys heard anything?
No, haven't heard anything at all. I think it's just going to end. I really do.
Well, and especially
the next issue solicits or something.
Yeah, no, I agree, Brent. Especially
like there's
with
no place for it, really. I don't know what the purpose is in this new Batman world. That it was caught up in a storyline that got started had just started before Bruce came back, and I don't think there's really any direction for it after. So I feel like it's just going to end, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, I'm glad they're keeping Batman and Robin, and I'm excited for Tomasi and Gleason to come on because it feels like that's going to have a something to do with, or, at least have a new purpose kind of thing. But I really don't know where Streets of Gotham fits in because I thought that was going to be the detective stories, and then they're already doing that on Detective. So,
well, but they could be. I guess where could it fit? It could be detective stories with Bruce, and I don't know. And I'm not saying that's where it could be. I think it would be sad because I really like Dini writing Batman. I think he does a great job with it. I don't care if that book were to go bi-monthly, whatever, to keep him on schedule. And if you do it done in ones, you could easily do that with that book and release it that way. And I think a Bat book could survive like that. I have no idea what's going to happen with that book. And honestly, with your speculation that maybe it might end, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I really don't. Because we haven't heard much of anything about it other than this Hush storyline.
Is the Andraco backup still happening?
No.
Okay, so that stopped. Okay, no, because I was going to say that. I mean, I haven't picked it up in a while, mainly because that was part of my culling a little bit to get less stuff. I mean, I might pick up what I was missing in trade eventually, but considering that the main point of that book originally was that you were going to get two stories, one with Paul Dini, one with Manhunter, and that with the end of backups, that's not happening anymore. I see less of a reason for that book to even exist.
It wasn't all Dini either. There were fill-in issues, very similar to what happened with Gotham City Sirens. So I'm just wondering if Dini's schedule is going to allow him, or if we're just going to see him stick to Zatanna. So I'm curious to see what happens with the book. I really, really am.
Well, especially because if you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, but Marvel and DC sort of did like a trade for a player to be named later sort of thing when it comes to their animated series runners, because Paul Dini is working on Ultimate Spider-Man right now over at Marvel. And Greg Weisman, who had been working on a lot of the Marvel stuff, is the guy behind Young Justice. So Dini does have a lot on his plate right now because it does take a lot to get a animated series running, and he is the main focal point behind Ultimate Spider-Man right now. So he might not have enough time to do more than one comic book a month.
Agreed. So that actually adds a lot more weight to what Brent was saying.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Ian, do you have anything else you want to add about the Batman universe or the Batman books or any of this that you didn't get a chance to say?
Well, I co-sign on a lot of what Brent was saying. I like the direction that things are going in right now. I like that there are two Dick Grayson books and two Bruce books, basically, along with a Tim story and a Stephanie story and anything else you want to throw in there. I mean, yeah, Gotham City Sirens is another one that exists right now. There seems to be
three Dick Grayson books.
Three.
Batman and Robin, Batman and Detective Comics are all Dick Grayson.
You're absolutely right. So yeah, that's good to see. I mean, my honest opinion though is I don't know how many of those books are going to remain exclusively Dick over time. I think they might go back and forth on Detective. Sorry, not on Detective. It is Detective that's staying Dick, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Then I think that's the one that's probably going to wind up going back and forth. To be 100% honest, they haven't announced that, but I would suspect that if there's a detective story to be told with Bruce, going back to what we were saying earlier about how that there really isn't a room for Streets of Gotham anymore, I think that they might wind up going back and forth between Dick and Bruce in that particular book.
Although we talked to David Barron last week, the colorist on the book, and he's heavily involved with the writer and the artist as far as the creation of that, and it really sounds like they've got a 12-issue run right now exclusively Dick Grayson. Now, there should be quotes around exclusively because we've already seen Bruce appear in a lot of books. So obviously what affects the Batman world exclusively is kind of, where it fits as necessary. Bruce is going to be appearing and his presence is going to be felt. I don't know. Might not necessarily happen that way is because if we're going to keep Dick Grayson as the Gotham City Batman, for years we've had multiple Batman books set in Gotham City because of how much happens in Gotham City. If we're really taking on that's Dick Grayson's role now, there's room to have, and it worked when Bruce was gone, having that many Dick Grayson books going.
Right.
With them being a little tighter and having a different feel, because there's definitely between Batman and Detective Comics, and actually Batman and Robin, actually all three of those books, three very different, three very unique feels in all of those books, yet still feeling like the same core characters. It could really work. I think we're going to see less flip-flopping per se, and more of more of a Bruce presence when necessary type of thing in those books. And I might be wrong. And wait, you might be 100% correct, and I might be way out in left field. It may be after the 12-issue run. Because who knows if it's going to be the same creative team after that book. I'm hoping it will, because I really like what they're doing so far. The way things work out, sometimes creative teams are signed on for 12 issues, and then they have a new direction. I don't know what's going to happen. Who knows? Well, it's a year. We'll see what happens in a year.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I agree though that it is good that for the umpteenth time for me to bring this up, it is good that, like, similar to what Marvel's doing, whenever Steve needs to be there, Steve's there, but otherwise there's just a Captain America running around. When Bruce needs to be around, Bruce is around, but there's also Dick Grayson running around doing his own stuff, which is pretty cool. And technically 4 books, because if you count Justice League of America, which is still going to be a part of. Dick is in that as well, but I actually dropped that for now because it's not my current cup of tea. I might pick it up in trade later on. But just going back to what I was saying though about the Batman books in general, is there seem to be 3 distinct storylines going on in the DC universe right now that are like high profile. There's the Batman stuff going on in Batman. There's the Brightest Day plus Green Lantern. That's all part of the same thing, in my opinion. Right. And the third being Flash, with Flashpoint going on. And these are the driving points of the DC universe that I feel are really going in a direction that fans are going to be able to follow really, really closely and actually have an impact on the DC universe once they're all said and done. And this Batman storyline could go on for years if they really wanted it to.
Absolutely.
Because with Batman Inc., you've got that many more Batmen running around, and it does, however, bring up a situation similar to when Superman tried to be everywhere at once. How do you draw the distinction between helping and turning things into a police state? And they might have to wind up, going into that at some point with Batman, because Batman cannot be everywhere at once. Even if there are multiple Batmen running around, is he still going to be able to stop this cataclysm that he saw coming when he was in the future? It's hard to change the past. It's hard to change the future as well, especially if you go too far in the process. And, the Justice League was never too happy with Superman when he tried to do more than he should. Are they going to have the same problems with Bruce overextending himself the way that he very well might with this Batman Inc.? So it'll be interesting to see where this whole thing goes down the road, but I'm certainly here for the long term.
And building off of what you're saying, here's an interesting when you're talking about police state. Let's say Bruce, because I actually think Bruce's vision is very noble, and I do think he has more of a balance than he ever had before. Like, I think Bruce 10 years ago, even in the comics, if he did this, it would be more of the police state. A lot more like a Batman we've seen in, like, Kingdom Come and the darker moments and stuff like that. I don't think he's that guy now.
He's not. Yeah.
I think events have changed that. But building off of what you're saying, it's not just Bruce you have to factor into this whole equation. Mm-hmm. Are every one of these Batmen and Batman Inc. going to play the way that he would want them to do? And what's it going to mean with those ones that don't? And he's going to have to step in, because they are now representing the brand. Wearing the badge that that badge concept that Brent was talking, whether it's a physical badge or a thematic badge, either way, Brent made an interesting point with that. What is Bruce going to do, and how is he going to rein them in? And I'm assuming that that's going to look different in different cases.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
It can't go Asbats again. He can't let that happen. I mean, no matter how much Brent might like Azrael, we can't have 20 Azraels running around as part of Batman Inc.
That Azrael book is kicking some butt right now.
Big time.
David Hine.
Yeah.
It's gotten so much better.
Did you were you a big fan of Jean Paul Valley? I think we've had this discussion before a while ago. Or was
you talking to me? Are you talking to me or Brent?
To Brent.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I liked it. I dug the costume more than anything else. But I thought the character when he wasn't Azrael was kind of a
so in other words, you liked it when the system was working on him.
Yes, very much.
Nice.
And I didn't mind him either when he was around. It's just he's definitely not the type of person that Bruce is looking for at this particular point in Batman and with Batman Inc. Because he needs people that are going to be able to listen to.
Are you reading Azrael?
I'm not. No,
Okay,
I haven't been. It'll be something that I'm probably going to pick up. At the New York Public Library.
Brent, are you current on Azrael?
Yes, I haven't read the most recent issue. No.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything then. What you said, Ian. There's actually that's a discussion that's currently being explored in Azrael.
Okay, good.
And
good.
Wait, and when I say it's a discussion, there is no resolution to it right now. But what the exact question you're asking is something that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson are exploring right now in that book. That book is very, very much not being ignored in all of this. So I don't know how that's going to play out. You're asking a question that Azrael fans are going to get, and this isn't spoiling anything for anybody because I'm basically just going to say they're exploring it. And we'll leave it at that and just read the book for those of you that haven't read it yet. Interesting.
Yes.
I really love how tightly woven this Bat universe is, that thematically things that are happening in one book are echoing into others. They're all being touched. This also goes over to books like Birds of Prey, Batgirl, Red Robin. Right. All of them are just interconnecting in all this. It's not derailing anything the creative teams are doing in those books, which I think is a pivotal key. These books don't feel like they're forced into a direction, if that makes sense. They're organically using what's going on to drive their reactions in their current stories, and they're not killing what creative's doing. And I think you can destroy a book's current arcs by forcing them to follow something.
Well, Batgirl's going to be tough. Batgirl's going to be tough, especially with Batman the Return, because is she going to listen to what Bruce wants her to do and move to England? Because that's going to be a major change in her book if that does actually go down. And with that's the one in particular, really. All the other ones seem to be going in a route where their current arc would make perfectly sense with what's going on in Batman Inc. But to uproot Stephanie after getting back in touch with her mother and getting a life going for her at this particular college that she's at, to suddenly uproot her and make her go to the UK is, I don't know if that's really something that she's going to be able to do. So I'll be looking at that pretty intently.
Is that something, though, to give Brian Q. Miller, if they do go that route, is it something to give Brian Q. Miller the ability to continue to tell the types of stories that he's been telling? Is it something that Brian Q. Miller maybe wants, too, to be able to? So, is that working on a couple of different levels? Because remember, all that happened in the one-shot that was written by Brian Q. Miller. That leads me, I'm just wondering if organically this is something that's for the good of the book and what Stephanie's doing. I don't know. I'll be curious. I'm with you in the sense that it's a question mark, and I agree with you. It's not set in stone that she's going to do that. I've got a lot of confidence in that book right now, so I will. While I'm with you, I'm very worried, about anything that could possibly hurt that book. I've also got confidence in the writer because he so far hasn't let me down for a single issue in a book that really has surprised me.
Right. And one final comment on that in particular is that I would have much preferred if the Bruce Wayne Return one-shots were just annuals for those particular books with the subtitle Bruce Wayne Return. Because I feel that with specifically with Batgirl and Red Robin, that those were issues that, some people might not pick up one-shots even if they're picking up the ongoing series. And it felt like to me that those one-shots were pretty pivotal to the storylines continuing in those books because those books didn't come out for a month. Those came out instead.
Right.
And I felt that would have worked a lot better if they were annuals or, numbered issues with a subtitle than one-shots. But, that's picking its scabs with DC that I'm sure, was just like one guy's decision. But I feel in those particular instances, they would have worked a lot better as either numbered issues or annuals.
I would have liked them numbered. I don't know that I really care about the labeling. I think it would have been beneficial to people maybe who don't go to the comic shop every week to know the reading order, because they clearly had a reading order and there was two different arcs sort of going on that were interconnected, but there was really you followed one set of arc and then another set of arc in the other book. It was all interconnected, but there was a certain way to read it that you clearly had to look at the end of the issue to see what book you're supposed to be reading afterwards. Many times there was 2 books in a week that you had to read in a specific order in order to follow the story properly. And if you read them out of order, you were missing something that was going on that was pretty pivotal as far as in Bruce's thinking leading into the arcs. So your comment about numbering, there actually should have been 2, I think, methods of numbering it.
Like,
it should have been
similar to how they did the Superman books for a while with the little S in the corner with the number.
Yeah, well, but I think this almost should have been the Return A and the Return B, because there were 2 arcs. It was one big overarching story, but there was one that like kind of followed the Outsiders and this whole crew, and then there was another one that followed this whole crew, and it was at the end it all came together, and I did enjoy it, but it was one of those where I was like, huh, wait, which one am I supposed to read next? And wow, I did have that experience. It didn't take anything away from me, but I would have liked some form of idiot labeling for me. Because I'll admit
that's good. From now on, there'll actually be an idiot label on all of your comics,
and it can be on the inside front cover. If you want to put it in a place where I don't feel as bad about it, I flip it open, idiot. Read this first, and honestly, they can call me an idiot. I'll be fine with that, because it'll take away from me the like, wait a minute, I'm halfway through, and I don't think I should be reading this one right now moment.
That's exactly what happened with me, because I only picked up Red Robin and Batgirl. Those were the 2 that I picked up, because those were the 2 books I was picking up regularly. Mm-hmm. Batman and Robin I was considering picking up. I might pick it up in a dollar bin later on, but it just I saw that the creative team wasn't the same as what was on it right now, so I figured I could just skip that. But with Batgirl and Red Robin, luckily I read Batgirl first, and then I read Red Robin, because that seemed to be how it was supposed to be read in the first place. Mm-hmm. But I'm not even 100% certain on that after reading them, which one was supposed to come first. Because, it really, like, even a simple checklist in the back probably would have been good, because they've done that with Brightest Day. They've done that with other events that have been going on in the DC universe. I don't think it would have killed to put that in the back in the last page or something, just so you know what you're supposed to read when.
I like that. I like idiot numbering. I'll be fine with that, because I honestly would respect that. I'd respect opening up the page. Idiot, you're reading the wrong book. I would laugh at it. It would work on me. I'd really respect him more for doing it. Because isn't it obvious you should be reading? Like the end of the last issue, it said which book to read next. You can't remember from one week to the next, because I can't. I clearly can't. Because they did say at the end of the previous week's issues which ones you're supposed to read next. So, idiot, last week we told you, read the other book first.
or at least title it The Durr.
Yeah, Durr. Yeah, Durr numbering.
Durr. Did you read this yet? Durr.
Jim, do you have anything you want to add?
Actually, yeah, I'm wondering something, because something Ian brought up a couple times. Now, if we got 2 Captain Americas, what are they doing with the shield? Because that's the shield is that adamantium vibranium hybrid that can't be reproduced.
You're asking.
Actually, it's interesting.
He kept bringing it up, and it's been ringing inside my head, and I got to know the answer.
Lucky has it.
This is a comic timing special report. What's been going on in that is that Steve Rogers has an energy shield similar to what he had back in the 90s and late 2000s.
I think it's the same.
Yeah, it is the same one. It's just a glove. Yeah, it's a glove that when pressed in becomes an energy shield, and Bucky's running around with.
Has he thrown that thing? I didn't remember if he threw it or not.
I think he was able to, but he didn't do it very often. It's more of a defensive thing than it is a projectile now.
Oh, okay.
All kidding aside, I'm a huge Brubaker fan. I've been following his Captain America since he was writing it, because I loved him on the Bat books. And I loved him on Catwoman and stuff like that. So he's just a writer. Like, he's one of those writers that I just follow to what he does. And that includes his creator-owned stuff and things like that he's done throughout the years. Captain America, if anyone's a fan of Captain America and you haven't been reading what he's been doing, for whatever reason, you stepped away from Cap for whatever reason, I highly recommend picking up that book. It's been collected a number of different ways. And it's just an amazing series.
Yes, it is.
And don't let the fact that Steve Rogers leaves and becomes Buck. It so works so well. The ways we're gushing about what's working with Bruce and Dick, and on the surface, it seems like those are similar concepts, but the way that they're doing it is so different because they're different characters, and their ways of operating are so different, and their world's different, and how they arrived at that point was different. It just works, and it's something that I don't want to. Obviously, I could go on for hours about Cap. It's a great book. Just a recommendation for people. I know a lot of our listeners are always looking for what books to pick up and trade and stuff like that. And it is something, Captain America is one of those. If you've been missing it, do yourself a favor and grab it and trade, because it's cool.
and pick up the Steve Rogers Super Soldier and trade when that comes out as well, because that was a great miniseries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just curious.
All right, guys, what's coming up on Comic Timing that we can?
Well, that's a good question.
Old episodes that Ian has yet to put out.
Well, we sort of took most of the month of November off for multiple reasons. One, Brent got married, so that's one of them. So
and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes. Now the honeymoon's over, and now he's got to be back to work and all that jazz.
I know what I was doing. I don't know what Ian was up to.
Hey, most of that was spent. Not most of it, but at least a week was spent in Florida at Universal Studios and Disney World, and having a good time and sampling the wine and the cheese and the beer and all that. But that coupled with actually work was kind of like really getting on my butt at that time as well. But we did finally put out episode 115 part 2, which was our New York Comic Con wrap up with Jamal Igle, Julian Weidel, Rick Gordon, and Daryl on that episode, which was a lot of fun. It's about 3 hours long, and listen to it all if you can, because there were so many good tangents on that. We wound up talking about Power Rangers for like 20 minutes, just randomly, which was really, really funny. That and Jamal Igle gets the Human Target theme song intro as requested. And we've got coming up, we got a review corner in the can. We've got Sean Pryor discussing his new venture. As well as what was originally the Comic Podcast Theme Week, which has now become like way later than that, but we'll still talk about it anyway, about the Mount Rushmore stuff. That's coming up, and we'll have our end of the year wrap-ups for DC and Marvel, probably in a similar style to what we did at last year, with actual questions being asked, coming up probably within, if not the end of December, early January. So that's what's coming up. Oh, and we finally will be releasing within the next 3 or 4 weeks an episode we recorded back in, what was it, August? With Juan. That's how long ago that was. It was. We have a Batman Under the Red Hood DVD review that we did that's just been sitting in the can waiting to be released with the return of Wanda Jesus, which has now been, returned in a couple of other places before then, but that's what's coming up on Comic Timing. SpeakGeekSpeak.com/Comic Timing.
All right, guys. Well, thank you once again for joining us, and we're going to be actually joining you guys quite soon to do The Dark Knight over on the Comic Timing end, and we'll be announcing on our show when that episode's going to be released at the time when that comes about. So we're excited to be doing the second part of this crossover over on Comic Timing. So be on the lookout for that episode.
Yep, and I'm sure you're excited not to have to edit it.
I love that. Of course, I'll be editing an episode of ours that week as well, so it doesn't really, relieve me any. I'm just recording a second show.
Well, I'll work on my introduction for Jim before we get that episode going.
All right. Thanks again, guys.
Take it easy, man.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
He did just thank me, right?
Indeed, he did, sir.
Weird.
I'm kind of prioritizing right now listener voicemails, but before we jump into some of those, I wanted to take this is a follow-up. This is from Michael, who chatted to me a while back about his dissatisfaction with Grant Morrison on the Batman books. So it was great. He did a little follow-up. He said, Sean, sorry this is a little late, but thank you for addressing my email on your podcast. I finished the Return storyline upon your recommendation, and it really hadn't changed my opinion overall of the storyline. But I agree with your assessment that my issue is more with Grant Morrison as a writer for this particular character. He seems to be the one who sets the bar for the rest of the Bat continuity, and that's where my frustration lies. I did enjoy Paul Dini's run on Detective, likewise his current run on Streets of Gotham. Maybe I acted with haste in my decision to drop all the Bat titles. Dick is adequate as Batman, but I guess I am a traditionalist and Bruce Wayne will always be the one and only Batman. Lord knows there's enough product out there to satisfy any reader with many interpretations of The Dark Knight. Anyways, thank you for assisting this jaded fan. I will give a few of the titles sans Morrison a shot to see where they lead me. And he just said, get well soon, and thank you. Actually, thanks for the follow-up on that, Michael. And Michael's from Manchester, New Hampshire. if you try some of the other titles, I would love if give them a few issues, but follow up with me, whether you call in a voicemail or a follow-up email. Let me know how you feel about that, because one of the things I'm really enjoying about the Bat books right now is that they all feel very different. And I'm curious to see if some of the Dick Grayson titles might grow on you now that he's kind of become a Batman of his own. You know, he's not a replacement for Bruce. He's his own Batman, and Bruce is doing his own thing. So you've got, the traditional Batman there. I'd be particularly curious to see if you pick up the David Finch book, The Dark Knight, which is going to be a Bruce book. And if you like that one, being that, you're not enjoying what Grant Morrison's doing, but maybe what Finch does in his new book is going to be more your cup of tea. I don't know. Let us know. Let us know what you pick up. I'm very curious because, I make a lot of assumptions. I'm reading all of them. So it's hard for me to make a determination saying, well, hey, I'm reading all of them, so I have the whole story going on. I do firmly believe that these titles are independent because as a reader, even though you're reading multiple books, you know which books you feel like you have to read like 2 other books before you understand it. And I'm not feeling that way with any of the Bat books right now. And I quite like that. I like that I can pick them up in any order, based on my feeling and mood at the time, or, it could be something as simple as the cover. It was just catchy, and I'm like, I'm going to read that one first. And I like that. I'm finding that quite enjoyable. It thematically feels like it's part of a larger Batman universe, but I do like that they all feel independent and have an independent flavor. So if you pick them up and you're feeling that experience with the ones, let me know which ones you're enjoying. I'm curious. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny when you were talking about Dini's run on Detective and his current run on Streets of Gotham. I'm hoping that that we were speculating on this, that maybe the Streets of Gotham book might not be continuing. I don't know. Because actually all the solicits are through February, so it's through, the length there, and this Heart of Hush storyline. So I'm hoping afterwards we get some news that maybe Dini will still be doing something with that book, because I really like what he does in the Bat universe as well, so I'm with you. And there's certainly room for another Bruce book, considering if you look how many Dick Grayson books are going to be out there, there's no reason why you couldn't have one more Bruce Wayne book. And I would love 3 Bruce Wayne books. So that's just me. But we'll see what happens. Be interesting to see. So thanks a lot for following up, Michael. I really appreciate that. Also, I had just a really quick email from Sean Rogers, and I wanted to shout it out. When you were asking about who Solek would send to talk to Hell, my first thought was that would be Alan Scott. And he said, please talk about Power Girl more in an upcoming episode. And that's from Sean Rogers. And Sean, you know what? It's funny. Alan Scott would be a fantastic choice. I guess my feeling was that Alan Scott, because he's not really a part of the Green Lantern Corps, but that would make sense that would be a guy on Earth who would have a connection to the Green Lanterns, though. So you're right. That actually makes logical sense. I guess I also took it because he's so busy in JSA with everything going on there. But that doesn't mean anything in the DC universe. We see people multitasking all the time. So you're right. It could very well be Alan Scott. And thanks for the comments on Power Girl. I'd love to talk cover to cover about Power Girl on an upcoming episode. That's actually our plans for the next few weeks, is to, even though we'll have some main segments already prepared, is to kind of jump around the DC universe and talk about books like that. That's why I've been talking about books like Freedom Fighters and stuff like that recently. I want to talk about some of the smaller books while we're talking about the high profile stuff, because I'm enjoying those just as much, and they're a nice breather from some of the high-end titles. So I'm really enjoying some of the things the writers are really doing. And Power Girl's a book I'm really digging. It's funny, now Winnick's, I think, gotten really entrenched in that book, I've got a feel for it. I was really enjoying so much what Graham Palmiotti and Amanda Connor were doing on that book that it took me a little bit to get adjusted to this one. And I got to tell you, I'm really digging what he's doing right now on Power Girl. So you're right. I'd like to talk about that some more on the show, and we'll count on it. That book will come up again.
Hey guys, it's Dick Grayson 99 again. I listened to almost every episode, and I noticed the character Dick Grayson is almost the redhead stepchild in your podcast. You don't talk about Dick Grayson. You always talk about Dick, Bruce Wayne, Barbara Gordon, almost anyone of the Bat Clan, but not Dick Grayson. You don't give any love for Dick Grayson, guys. Give more love for Dick Grayson.
I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you here on this one. I think we give lots of love to Dick Grayson. Actually, we've been following, especially with Bruce Wayne, The Return and all that, I think we were following a lot what was going on with the Batman and Robin title as well leading up to that. I got to admit, I grew up being a Bruce fan, so he tended to be more of my focus. But actually, the last couple episodes should be very pleasing to you because a lot of Bruce. Not a lot of Bruce. Some Bruce and some Dick Grayson on this episode. Actually, arguably, we did just as much Dick Grayson as far as covering Dick Grayson's book. And then we had that interview last week, of course, talking directly about Detective Comics, what was going on there. We're going to be covering you'll actually be happy about this, we're going to be covering every single Bat title featuring Dick Grayson on upcoming episodes. So we didn't get to all of them on this one. We're going to be talking about books like Batman and Robin and stuff like that. So don't worry, we're going to be chatting a lot about it. I'm a big fan of the Dick Grayson Batman, and I'm a big fan of Dick Grayson in Justice League. So actually, I'm very curious from you, how are you digging Justice League? Are you liking him in that role, or are you just preferring him in the Bat books? I'm kind of curious about that, because there seems to be a mixture in the audience base as far as that goes. So I'd be curious to see what your feelings are. But yeah, definitely you'll hear me more Dick Grayson coverage. Certainly wasn't meant to be any avoidance of him. And he's very high profile, so definitely going to be talking a lot of Dick Grayson.
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Jamie Dunst. I was listening to your latest episode, and you were talking to, I believe it was Nathan at Comic-Con, and he was talking about the JLA-JSA crossover, and, you know, how he didn't like it, and I have to agree with him. I read the whole thing, and from that story, it has soured me to both books, pretty much. I don't buy either one of them anymore. And it's specifically having to do with that story, that crossover. I think that, first off, it was overdone. I think it was a story that could have been told 2, maybe 4 issues total. And I think it was just too much. Also, if this was for a jumping on point, like to get you interested in these two teams, I think while I like the idea of having one writer, one artist, to have a consistent flow on the story, you don't get a good idea of the JSA. And for people who are maybe thinking about trying it and saying, oh, this is a JLA-JSA crossover, I don't think you got the appropriate feel for what the JSA is supposed to be post this story, because then the regular writer was taking over. But I got to say, I'm not a fan of James Robinson. I know people say, oh, he's a great writer. Oh, you know, Starman's great. Oh, this and that. But I have been very underwhelmed by his writing. I think the only thing I really enjoyed was his Superman run, and particularly the Crypto issue. I just didn't like it. But to go on to what Nathan said about the Daily Bugle at the end of that chapter, I think there was more stuff to it than just that, because I remember Comic Geek Speak did a issue-by-issue analysis of each issue of the story. And I remember Peter Rios going over a whole bunch of inaccuracies that had to do with the writing. And one specifically I remember was, you see Dick Grayson as Batman looking at Jesse Quick and saying, I can't believe how fast she is and the power and all this other stuff. And for those that don't remember, there was a previous Titan series where Dick Grayson recruited Jesse Quick onto the team, and she was even second in command, and there was a mentor relationship between the two in that book. And the fact that James Robinson wrote this story, this bit in about him not realizing how fast she was, just rings false. He could have written it as, she's gotten so much faster than I last remember her, or something to that extent. But to me, the reason I get annoyed by that is because I caught that. It was just, I'm reading it through, and I caught that. And I'm wondering, do the editors take the time to look at this stuff, or is it just, oh, he's James Robinson, he can do what he wants? I don't really know, and I'm not going to speculate. This story for me really did not do anything to make me interested in anything else that comes on to either one of these books. I read the next issue of JLA, and I like moments, like the Dick Grayson Supergirl stuff, but not enough for me to want to buy it. And at $3.99, you don't have me. You don't have this. So I mean, as much as I like the JSA and the JLA as teams and as ideas and as concepts, I'm just not on board. I can't do it. There are too many other better books out there that I want to read that I can't see myself doing anymore. So they don't have me for those two books, which is a shame. I did read Batman Inc. #1, and that was amazing. I loved the relationship between Bruce and Selina. I loved the first arc of this. The first issue of this was just amazing. And I'm wondering, what do you think about Batman as a global initiative? It seems that Bruce Wayne is going to be finding the Batmans of different nations. That's what it seems like. And I wanted your thought on Batman Inc. Batman as a corporation, as a global thing, as opposed to just lone crusader, in the shadows. To me, this is a really interesting concept, and I'm really curious to see where this goes. And I'm really enjoying it. So I wonder what your thoughts of this sort of global, scale of Batman, because I think there's a lot of really interesting concepts for it. The last thing I want to talk about is The Flash. Finished the last issue. I really enjoyed it. Loved the art. I'm a little annoyed about how long I had to wait for the last issue. It didn't lessen my enjoyment of issue 6, but I don't know. I've been hemming and hawing about whether I want or not. I want to continue, and I have come to the conclusion that I'm going to continue for the next story arc, see how it goes, because I love Barry Allen, I love Jeff Johns, I love Francis Manapul's art, and so there's more positive than negative. But I'm wondering, because when it comes to my personal views, it's out of sight, out of mind on a lot of books. And I wonder how you guys are on that. If a book hasn't come out for a long time and you don't really think about it as much, do you tend to want to drop something because you haven't seen it in a while, so you just your interest has waned? I mean, I felt my interest waning on The Flash because it was taking so long. I thoroughly enjoyed the story, and I just reread all 6 issues all at once, and it's an amazing setup. And I'm really curious to see all of the little pieces going forward. But I just wanted to know, do delays wane your interest? Like, do they lessen your interest? Because sometimes it does for me. And like I said, out of sight, out of mind. I just, overall, I love the character, so I'm going to continue with it. Those are just some questions I have. Love the show, and I will talk to you guys soon. Hope you're all well. Bye.
I'm going to go a little backwards in my response, just because your comments about The Flash are just like so fresh in my head at the moment, and then I'll work my way backwards through your comments. It's very similar to what you said, and I think you hit the nail on the head. If the creative team is good enough and they're delivering a quality to me, does it lose my interest in the book? No. But is that book one that I will jump to, like, after there's been a long delay? Like, for example, The Flash, when it was coming out on time, was higher up on my stack as far as reading time because the story was fresh in my head, so I was excited for the next issue. When it came out, I was excited that I had a new issue of The Flash, but I got to admit, I read it a lot later than I did the previous issues. And that would go back to what you're saying. Does the interest wane? Well, the interest has changed as far as where it fits on my stack. I loved the issue, and I agree with your comments. And I think what bothered me, too, was I had to go back and reread the first parts of the arc in order to get back into the story. I like rereading arcs. I like going back and rereading issues. I'm a big advocate of it on the show, and I always encourage people to do it. But I like doing it out of choice, not because I forgot. And that really was what a lot of it was. I forgot certain elements of the story, so I had to go back and reread. So I did that. But again, like you said, the creative team's hitting a home run. So my attitude is always that will keep it in the stack. If by the time I'm done, I enjoyed it, I'm with you, I'm on for the next arc. They didn't lose me because the story was that good. I'm a big fan of, though, let's get fill-in artists on or something like that. I know it's all about getting the nice-looking hardcover together with the same creative team, but scheduling-wise, I love Francis Manapul's art. I'm not saying get him off the book or anything like that. I'm not an advocate for that. Let's look at what his pacing is. Let's figure it out. And, fill in an artist where you got to it. I don't care if it's in the middle of an arc. And that might be a popular comment, but, get the story out. That's always, I'm a big one. Get that story out monthly. Got to put a fill-in artist? Put a fill-in artist. Get it out monthly and be done with it. And, keep Francis Manapul on the book because it's pretty. But I'm more of the periodical person. Now, your person that's collecting these books in hardcovers and trades are probably going to come back and say, nah, Sean, let's get it collected and done. So I think there's two mindsets now on that end. But no, it doesn't get me to drop a book. I've got to be honest on that. And I know I can speak for Jim on that as well. Jim is actually funny on that end when books get delayed like that. He looks at it as that's kind of on those months where maybe a Flash book isn't released or something like that. That gives him a little bit less on his budget. So he actually kind of likes that in a weird way for that reason. So I know I can speak for him on that end. But I know he's in the same boat I'm in where it takes a little bit out of the storyline. And I think that's really more of what it is. It's quality. Quality always determines whether or not I'm going to dump a book. And that's always the case. This episode, we talked, obviously, a lot about Batman Inc. and Batman as a global initiative. And I love the idea of him as a global initiative. I think it's a good use for Bruce. I think passing the torch to Dick Grayson and pulling a fully active Batman who is in charge of Gotham. And he's clearly said that. You're in charge of Gotham now in multiple comics. And I really like that. I like that concept because Bruce has got bigger fish to fry now. And he can comfortably do it because his original mission in Gotham is being taken care of in a way that has allowed him to do this. So I really am digging that. The JLA JSA. You made an interesting point. I've been a big advocate, and I've talked about this a lot on Facebook and stuff like that, too. I'm a big advocate of James Robinson's JLA. I love the team. I've loved that there's a build to where it's at. I will say this, though. You made an interesting point about the fact that was that a good jumping-on point for either team? And I honestly 100% agree with your reasoning as far as why it wasn't. But the big problem with that is, you're right, especially with JSA, without having the other creative team involved, you don't really get a nice idea of where JSA is headed. I really like the current JSA. There's been 2 issues, I believe it's 2 issues, it's 1 or 2 issues, 2 issues of the brand new writing team on it. And especially in the most recent issue, there were some wonderful Jay Garrick moments and Alan Scott moments where we got to see, some philosophy between the two of them, and a lot of it goes into World War II and a lot of their history together, and those are the bits that I really love about JSA. I love the feeling with the JSA of the history and the longevity, and that crossover, you're right, wouldn't have been a good jumping on point, and it's not something I really would have recommended to somebody as a starting point for either. It's honestly, if people ask me where to jump on the JLA, I've repeatedly said now that I think this Crime Syndicate arc is the place to go for the JLA. I think finally, it's no longer about is this team ready? It's this team is ready, and they're going up against big villains, and that's more of what the JLA needs right now. My frustration with JLA, and this isn't exclusive to Robinson. This really was because I've really been enjoying Robinson's run. Prior to Robinson, my problem was this team's constantly been building. And I'm not talking about this current team. I'm talking about JLA in general. It's been a while since we've had what I would call a set roster on the team that's really felt like it's developed into something. And I like that Robinson's doing that. And I like the direction this team's going in. The Crime Syndicate arc for me has been a home run. I enjoyed the crossover. It's funny, when you were saying it could have been shorter, I do agree with that. And I wonder if that might have... Because the only reason why I'm really agreeing with that is I enjoyed it. I had no problem with the link. I had no problem with the pacing. I had fun with it. But fair is fair and right is right. Gotten a lot of comments at conventions, online, and stuff like that from a lot of listeners who just didn't care for it. So I'm wondering if the story had been shorter, as you're suggesting, if maybe the pacing had been in a different way, if maybe some of those people who didn't care for it would have liked it more. You know, maybe it would have gotten to all the right beats in a pace that would have been more. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for that. I enjoyed the story, so I'm not going to go back and say I didn't or anything like that. I did. You're right about a lot of the things, like the Jesse Quick thing. I'm going to be honest with you 100% on what I took that as. I took that as he was more, he looked at her more as a foreign body because it had been so long since that Titans run, just in the sense that, she'd been Liberty Bell in the JSA, and then this is now her coming back as Jesse Quick, and that there was something different about her. But that was the way I interpreted it, because I was thinking at first, I'm like, well, why is Dick talking this way? And I guess I just kind of took it as that was the way Dick Grayson was looking at her as something fresh because she had been Liberty Bell before. But I read that Titans run, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and I really quite enjoyed her in that role. But that was the way I took it, yet I can totally see what you and Peter had been talking about. I actually... I have listened to the Comic Geek Speak episodes, and they're quite interesting to me because there's things that I agree with that I think that they're 100% correct on, and there's things where I didn't agree with it as much. But it was my personal opinion. I really enjoyed the story, but it's great episodes and ones I highly recommend because they do the cover-by-cover exploration of that particular crossover. I will say, and if you get a chance to check it out, do check out the current JSA series with the new creative team, because if you jumped away because of this book, I really am liking what they're doing in the new series, and it's completely divorced from all of what has happened in this. It's a completely different storyline. It is 2 issues now, because actually the cliffhanger in the first issue put... I don't want to actually say. There's 2 issues that are out, and it's issue 45 is the current issue. 44 is where you're going to want to start, though, and there are 2 issues that'll kind of fill you in on where the JSA. It's Mark Guggenheim and Scott Collins they're doing, and they're really doing a bang-up job on this book. I really like it so far. So very different, and if you stepped away because you didn't like what was going on before, hopefully they can grab you and bring you back into the JSA. It has nothing to do with those crossovers, though. So hopefully that'll help. Let me know if you check out the Crime Syndicate arc on JLA, because I really liked the Crime Syndicate arc. It was what I was hoping for. I've said all along what has been keeping me in JLA and what's been exciting me about what Robinson was doing was the anticipation that this team was building to the point where they were going to feel like a strong Justice League, going up against the kind of villains that we would expect for the Justice League, because I got so tired of for so long seeing rotating teams. And I was liking the fact that he was pulling characters that... some of whom were appearing elsewhere, like Supergirl and Dick Grayson as Batman, but characters that you wouldn't traditionally, like a Donna Troy, and like you wouldn't expect to be pulled into solo titles and yanked away from this one. So we wouldn't have a team in turmoil again. And so you got a couple of heavy hitters like Supergirl and Dick Grayson. But then you got your Donna Troy and characters like Jade and Jesse Quick, who they have the freedom to really just hold on to and develop as a team. And so I don't know. I'm sorry that you're not enjoying that book, and I'm curious to see if you pick up JSA, follow up with us on any of those. If you don't pick up JLA again, obviously don't follow up on JLA. But if you pick up JSA and you try that out, I'd love to hear your comments on the Mark Guggenheim stuff that's going on, because I'm finding it quite interesting. And the Crime Syndicate, I feel bad because I do think a lot of people that I talked to personally dropped JLA before the Crime Syndicate arc, and I think that's been the arc to me that I was hoping for as a reader of the book. I was hoping that it was eventually building to this. But, Nathan made comments about editorial, too, when it comes to some of the mistakes that were in that crossover. And, your points are certainly well made. I'm not going to argue with a lot of them. There were certain things that I clearly, as a fan, I let go. And that doesn't mean that you're wrong not to. So that's one of the things I love about voicemails. I love different comments. So if you hear me kind of being tentative on some of this, it's really because there's comments that you made that I don't really have anything that I really want to dispute, because they're personal comments and they're things that bothered you that didn't bother me, but they were there. So, that's why I'm not really disputing them, because there's nothing to dispute. There were definitely things that you're talking about, like, yeah, no, they're there. He's right. They didn't bug me, but he's right to feel that way. So that's kind of where I'm at on that, and so that's kind of why you're hearing me tentative on that part. I enjoyed it, but you didn't, and I understand why. And some of those points are very valid, and it's not even an agree to disagree. To a certain extent, it's just I wanted to air your comments because you make some interesting personal points about it. So definitely follow up with me, whatever you end up doing.
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Jamie Dunce, JD74 on the boards. So I've been reading a bit more about the JMS leaving the Wonder Woman and Superman monthly titles and focusing on the Earth One sequel. And I don't know, and I believe he said there was something about not being able to commit to everything, and there was a time factor involved. And my question really starts off with, how is it that someone like Bendis can write 5 titles, and then you have someone like Jeff Johns who does all the titles, who does at DC, plus he helps run the company, and all the different writers who used to be able to juggle a whole bunch of different things, and someone like JMS, who is a top-notch writer, can't handle 2 monthly titles and a graphic novel. I'm not quite sure the logic that comes from this. Maybe he can. I don't know. But it just seems kind of weird to me. And my biggest issue with this is that he started 2 very, I don't want to say controversial, but interesting storylines when it comes to both Superman and Wonder Woman. And for the most part, I don't think they set the world on fire. I don't think they, people are overly excited about it, but they have interest. I just read Superman 705. It's an interesting story. I'm not sure how I feel about it in a Superman book, but I liked it, and I'm interested to see where this all goes. Not so much for Wonder Woman. And with these new writers, I understand that they're going to work off notes that JMS has, from what I understand. But to me, it just seems like he's abandoning storylines that I feel he needs to complete. And I don't know. I'm disappointed, and it makes me annoyed that he brought Superman and Wonder Woman to these places only to kind of say, okay, I'm done. I got this book, this graphic novel to work on. I can't do it all. So, all right. I don't know. It seems kind of, I don't know. I don't know the right word to describe it, but it's a bit annoying. I do like, Superman comics right now are pretty hit or miss with me, but I do find the stories interesting. Like I said, 705, not quite sure. It was something I wanted to see in a Superman book, but it was an interesting story nonetheless. But I want to know you guys your opinions on this. I mean, you have a I would even call him, I think someone called him, he's an A-list writer. JMS is an A-list writer who was supposed to bring up the profile, especially not just on Wonder Woman, but, the Superman title as well. And now you got these 2 new writers, one on Wonder Woman, one on Superman, who maybe they're good writers, but they're not on that A-list level as JMS. And does that hurt the books? Especially since we're knee-deep in a storyline that JMS created for these 2 characters. I find my interest weaning on this, and just want to know your opinions about what what you feel when a top list writer leaves a book and then two, I'm not going to say lesser known, but not in the same level type writers take up what A-list writer is doing. Does that get you worried at all? Love the show as always. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Well, Jim and I both already talked about this, but there's some interesting points to build on this. Unlike the JLA JSA one, where I didn't really have a strong opinion as far as I didn't really have a lot to dispute about this. I think a couple things I want to caution this. First of all, I don't know what JMS is doing besides writing comics. So, I mean, there could be other things on his plate other than that. So as far as his availability, his ability to write multiple books, things like that, I don't know what he's doing. Then I've also heard rumors, too, of health issues and stuff like that, all of which I don't know. I haven't verified, so that's neither here nor there. It's interesting on this. First of all, him coming onto both these storylines, and we're saying they aren't setting the world on fire. Sales numbers-wise, they did. They took both of these books and bumped them up. Now, I was a huge fan, obviously, right is right. I loved Gail Simone's run. Am I liking his Wonder Woman as much as that? No. I adored her Wonder Woman. But the problem is, I haven't seen where this storyline's going, and it's such a departure from what I was liking before that as a fan, when you take a character like Wonder Woman and you change that. But as I mentioned, as this storyline's going on, we just saw her fly recently. Well, in those moments when that was happening, I'm like, okay, and there are recent events that were going on in Justice League Generation Lost, and I think Gary mentioned this on Facebook, and I'm totally with him on this because it was something I was thinking as well. My question is what's really going on with Diana? And until I see where that storyline's going and what's really happening with her, it's very hard for me to tell how I feel about it. I do think it's a story that until I have seen the beginning, middle, and ending, which goes back to a point you're making. Do I worry about that? As we talked about previously, as long as I like the writers, I don't worry as much. I'm not losing interest. My interest isn't waning. I'm not at that point because I haven't had a chance to read what they're doing with it. And if I really like what they're doing with it, it's going to be great. Hey, good news. I might like what they're doing even more. Is kind of what I'm looking at. So I don't know. It's curious to see where those storylines go. Wonder Woman in particular, I'm in that boat with. Grounded, I've adored. I think Grounded has been spectacular. That's my personal opinion. You might not agree with it, but I've really enjoyed Grounded. Wonder Woman, I'm like, it's been good. Grounded has been great. For me, I mean, that's one of the two out of the two JMS books that really Superman's been the one that's more been, and that's another one where what he's been doing with Grounded has gained a lot of media attention. It's brought a lot of numbers to the book. It's brought people in there, and I think it's been a really good book. I love that every issue, even though he's doing this same walkabout theme, every issue's been different. Every place that he's gone to has had different themes, and it's really kind of exploring the role of what is a hero and what is their role and what dangers do they bring to the table. And I'm really liking that exploration of that concept. It's I would like to see, similar to other people, more Superman elsewhere, just to see Superman doing other things, because I do think he's the type of character that realistically can be doing this kind of traveling around while at the same time doing other things. So, but yet I get it as far as storyline-wise, so I have no issue with that. But I love what JMS has been doing with Superman. And both writers coming on, because I like both of them. I like the work on iZombie. Phil Helster actually is doing the Darkness as well, which I've been enjoying his Darkness. I'm curious to see how these writers do when they take over these books. Now, that could be, then I could get worried after I start reading a couple issues of that. I don't know. It's too soon to say on that. My personal approach to stuff like that, though, whenever a writer changes, my preference is that, obviously, very similar to you, actually, I will agree with this. I like a writer to have a chance to close up their own storyline. Obviously, in this case, the writer isn't being booted off the book. For whatever reason, the writer's making the choice to do this. I don't know what JMS's real reasons are, what's really going on there. What's holding his schedule load up, and that's really neither here nor there because I'm not going to change any of that. I'm very curious to see what these new writers do when they take over. I do get more annoyed when a writer's booted off mid-run and it's not their choice. I'm guessing because this is being done, obviously, this is something that's a choice of JMS's, or something he worked out in partnership with DC to make this choice, and they're going on to that Earth One hardcover. I thought was stellar, so I'm excited for another one of those. So that part of the news is, I think, brilliant. I'm guessing that he is going to be there as a resource on some level to those writers where needed to make sure that they have the notes to finish up the storyline proper. And I'm hoping they have some flexibility to put their own little stamp on it. We'll see. That's my honest answer to that is it's way too soon for me to tell. I prefer to give writers a chance. I prefer to give new creative teams coming onto a book a chance before I get worried about it. Because I do think if I walk in worried, then I'm going to really start looking to attack the book before I've even read it. So I'm walking it open-minded. Let me just see what they do. If I don't like it, then I don't like it, and I'll go from there. Or if something bothers me. And certainly, I know people are looking for me if there's something I don't like, bring it on the show. If there's a reason, honestly, what the telltale sign will be, if I'm not talking about it on the show, it means that I think it's just okay. I tend to gravitate towards a lot of the titles that I just really think are interesting to chat about. So if you don't hear me chatting about it too much, it's a sign that Sean thinks it's okay. It's not that great. And honestly, if it's something that I passionately disliked, I'd bring it on the show just because I think people would find that fun. But I don't have anything in my stack that fits that bill. But, I've got a lot of books that are okay that I'm reading. That I'm like, they're fun. They're okay. Not looking to chop it, but, it's not one of those that, like, I rush. I've got to read it at the top of my stack. So we'll see. See what goes on with that. Interesting points, though. I don't know. You're right. There's lots of writers who are doing tons of things who seem to be able to write multiple books. I don't know what his schedule is, and I don't know what's going on in his life. That's a lot to you don't know what his life's like. You don't know what his personal life's like, and all that. So it's hard to tell why is he able to do what he's able to do, and Jeff Johns is able to do what he's able to do. And I don't think that there's a cookie cutter solution for any writer. I don't think every writer writes the same way. So I think that's something we got to keep in mind, too. Everyone has their own personal process. That's why every writer's different. Let's talk about Jeff Johns is stellar. I think Gail Simone's stellar. I think they're stellar in different ways. There's different things they do. Grant Morrison, I think what Grant's doing is stellar, but he's doing it in a different way. And, they're all writing different amounts of books. So, whatever their process is, it's working for me. Just keep it up. So I don't know. Very cool, thought-provoking voicemails. So please keep those coming. Actually, I really, this is one of those where I will think about it beyond this conversation, and I really appreciate that. Actually, something I didn't comment on your last voicemail when you were talking about the JSA JLA one. Thank you for not just talking about the book you didn't like, but also, when you're calling in, you're balancing it out by throwing in some things that you do like. I really like the way you do that, and encourage all the listeners to do that. Please feel free to throw in any comments on there, whether you call them controversial or not. I always find those comments interesting, whether you agree with what we're saying or not, or you have some different thoughts that we aren't talking about on the show that you want to throw on there. I really appreciate you balancing that out with both the good and bad side of it.
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Jamie again. I know I've left you two not too great, email voicemails. They're pretty, not as great as normally. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Green Lantern trailer because for me, I loved it. I thought it was great. When I saw the Entertainment Weekly cover, I liked it, but the costume seemed kind of weird to me. But having seen the trailer, I have hopes for it. I think it's going to be a great commercial success. I'm hoping it'll be a great commercial success. But I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, this doesn't feel like Hal Jordan. This doesn't feel like Hal Jordan," and people are saying, "Why is Tony Stark in my Iron Man movie?" And I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't bother me, and I don't know why. If it's because I've been a Green Lantern fan for so long, the excitement of seeing my favorite character on, live, a live action movie is just so exciting that I'm not really, I got blinders on, or if I'm truly happy with the fact that the creators are trying to bring in every type of audience. From people who know everything about Green Lantern to people who know nothing about Green Lantern and everyone in between. This is a type, they're making a movie that is going to be mainstream and widely watched. And a lot of people have that sort of, expectations. And I wanted to know, because I've seen movies like, where they do comic book movies where they try to get in a wide range of audience, and the movie is commercially successful, if not, critically acclaimed. Like Fantastic Four, example, is a good example. I mean, they got in all sorts of different people, but the story was pretty weak, and the acting was pretty bad. And even though it made a lot of money, it was a pretty awful movie. I want to know what your thoughts about mainstreaming a comic book franchise to get a wider audience. Do you think it turns off comic book, fans? Do you think there's a happy medium for this sort of thing? I know I'll be, one of the first in line when this movie comes out, but I wanted to know your thoughts on this sort of thing, because I don't see what people are seeing. I just see what looks to be like an awesome Green Lantern movie. So I wanted to know your thoughts. Take care, guys. Bye.
I saw the trailer on the big screen, and I mentioned this in the previous episode, with Harry Potter. And I got to be honest with you, seeing the trailer on the big screen sold me completely. So I'm really in the camp that you're in. Whereas I'm like, how can you not be? I'm like, really? What trailer did you see that I didn't see that you're not digging it now? I do think there's a big difference between seeing it on the big screen and kind of getting the sense of epic scale. I also, the more footage that I'm seeing, the more trailers that I'm seeing, I like that we're seeing Oa and other Green Lanterns, and the idea that they're building a franchise out of this. I mean, talk about mainstreaming a franchise. I think what happens is it's either, as long as it's good, I don't care. I want them to mainstream it, because I firmly believe awareness of these characters is great for comics. So I think it's awesome. Here's a good example. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, both mainstream movies that I thought were perfect Batman movies. Did they take some liberties for a more mainstream audience? Sure. But they weren't, at the core, it was at the core, deep, good, strong Batman films. And that's the important part right now. At the core, this needs to be a strong Green Lantern film. The costume looks better on the screen. 100% agree with you. When I saw the kind of glowy element of it, now I kind of understand a little bit more what's going on when I saw it on the screen. I'd like to see even more of it, in further trailers, and when they get to finalize everything, and what does it really look like when it's done. That glowy green part around his neck, and there's only a small bit of it that I saw in the trailer, kind of like, why is the costume looks cool? It really does when you actually see the part of it that's not glowy. When you actually see the first suit up, I'm like, oh, it looks a lot like his costume in the comics. I'm like, this is great. So I don't really have too much problem with any of it. I think it looks great. I'm curious to see what Ryan Reynolds, more of Ryan Reynolds in the Hal Jordan role. And I'm really taking this is Hal Jordan year one. We're seeing a very young Hal Jordan for the first time stepping out. And I think we're going to see him grow into the character that we're more used to. And that's not to say that I thought that he wasn't Hal at all. I do think he's Hal. I think he's very much, the pilot that we see in earlier, Secret Origins and stuff like that. We get to see a younger Hal at work. I think that's what we're going to see, and we're going to see him adapt into a much more stronger, confident character and go on that journey with him in this series. And I'm glad that I'm almost positive. I thought that they're going to be doing a second film. They've already greenlighted that because of the interest in this one. And I love that there's going to be, a cartoon series, and that, this is kind of expanding this whole awareness of the Green Lantern universe. So I like it. I think it's good, mainstreaming these characters, getting them out there. I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of, and I think it's funny, a lot of this, and I'm going to go back to actually the JLA JSA. Not JLA JSA in particular, but the Justice League book. What am I liking about what Robinson's doing? To me, it's this build to a bigger franchise. And Robinson, I feel, is building the Justice League back up to a big franchise. And I think it really what's hurting Justice League and what's been hurting Robinson on this is not that Robinson has a bad concept going. I think his concept's very good. I like the team dynamic that he's putting together. I think the problem is so many Justice League fans have seen teams building and it petering out, where they never build to the point where they feel like the Justice League. And that's why I always been not always, because obviously it just came out recently, but as I've been talking to people, I've been recommending the Crime Syndicate art, or saying to people that I think this Crime Syndicate arc is going to be the one that's going to finally show us the team that I was hoping for, and it has for me. That's not to say that everyone has to agree with me on that, but for me, Justice League right now, this with issue 50 and 51, obviously continuing on with that arc, this has been the team that I was hoping Robinson was building towards. And a lot of that anticipation, when we talk about, and this does tie back into the Green Lantern films, the anticipation for me with the Green Lantern films, the more trailers that I'm seeing, it's a build towards a Green Lantern franchise where we're going to see Hal from the beginning of the movie, similar to what we saw with Batman Begins with Bruce, grow into the hero that we expect. Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins, in the early parts of that film, is not the Bruce Wayne that we see in the cowl later in the movie. We see him make huge mistakes along the way and learn from them. I think we're going to see that from Hal in this movie and learn from them. We're going to see Hal grow into this confident individual that we're going to see. So this all kind of ties together. So I guess I did have more to say on JLA, JSA. Not so much the crossover, just the concept of what Robinson's doing with it and why I've been enjoying it since before that JLA, JSA crossover. What I like about his team and what he's doing, whether you agree with me or not. It's interesting. So you brought up some interesting thank you very much for the phone calls, the various phone calls that you gave. We're actually all caught up on our voicemails now with this one. And please keep them calling. And whether you agree with things that we're saying or you want to throw out new comments or anything like that, our voicemail line is 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. That's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. I love having your comments a part of the show. So please throw them out there. You know, we might not always agree on everything that we're reading or seeing or anything like that, but I love having your thoughts a part of this, and I do like that interactivity. And we're all caught up now, so it's a great time to call into the show. But yeah, Green Lantern, very cool. I'm digging the trailer. I'm with you that there's something now that's clicked for me. And that Entertainment Weekly, when it came out there, I liked it. I thought it was cool, but I was like, where's it going? Now that we've actually seen it in practice and in motion, it looks great. The only part for me, that's the traditionalist in me, that around his neck there was like that glowy part when he suited up and he had his arms out and you see him suit up in the trailer and you see that kind of glowy part around his neck, but you actually see the rest of the suit and all that. It all looks great. So I don't know. I've got a lot of hope on it now. I'm really hoping that this is the Green Lantern Batman Begins, so to speak. It's the one that gives us the origin of Hal on the big screen in a way that's incredibly satisfying. And when you see those other core members up there, I just can't see it going wrong. I can't. You almost have to try to mess this up. I think that's kind of what I know. It sounds like Jamie, you and I are in the same boat. I think they're gonna have to try to screw this one up. Like, how could you? Because it just looks too good on paper. So I'm hoping it's more Batman Begins than Jonah Hex. To give you my answer, and I think it's going to be. I really do. Jonah Hex was a movie I saw in the theater. You heard a review on the show. It was enjoyable. I don't own it, which tells you a lot. I typically buy all of my favorite films on DVD because I know I'm going to watch them again. Jonah Hex is one I did not buy, which tells you a lot about the film. I did not feel that I was ripped off with my movie ticket, but I also did not feel that it captured enough of what I consider with Jonah Hex, the way that the animated short did, which I think was, to me, that was an A+ home run. Perfect, and I was hoping the Jonah Hex movie would be that. So I'm hoping that Green Lantern is a Batman Begins. I want to buy, the extra, like they could get me to buy it 3 times, like they did Watchmen. So I'm hoping it's more of that category for me. Cool calls.
Could you just once say, let's get in the car? Is that so hard?
Once again, our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, Batwoman #1, written by J.H. Williams III with W. Hayden Blackman, art and cover by J.H. Williams III, and a variant cover by Amy Reeder. The multiple award-winning creative team of J.H. Williams III and W. Hayden Blackman launched the first chilling arc of an ongoing series fans have been clamoring for. In the 5-part hydrology, Batwoman faces bizarre new challenges in her war against the dark underworld of Gotham, and new trials in her personal life as Kate Kane. She quickly finds herself in the deep, facing truths about her past and her future. Who or what is stealing the children from Gotham's barrio? And what is the twisted purpose? Can she train her cousin Betty Kane, a.k.a. Flamebird, as her new sidekick? And how will she handle dark revelations about her father, Colonel Jacob Kane? How is she dealing with the supposed drowning of her sister, the villain known as Alice? And why is a certain government agency suddenly taking an interest in her? The road to the answers begin here. And regularly $2.99, 50% off, only $1.49. And once again, remember that all the books from the major publishers this month are 45% off once again at dcbservice.com. It's a great time if you've been like kind of leaning on the fence. Do I want to try this service or not? This is the time to do it and get it at a really incredible discount. So thank you, dcbservice.com, for providing those discounts of 45% or more on major publishers this month. And they have all kinds of independents, everything. So if you're looking for comics, they've got it. Wonderful pre-orders there, collectibles, games, trading cards, you name it, they've got it. So check out dcbservice.com as your pre-order source. Over at InStockTrades.com. Remember to check out the Batman Dead to Rights trade paperback, collecting Batman Confidential 22 to 25 and 29 to 30. And it's regularly $14.99. 38% off, only $9.29. Remember, orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. So if there's been a bunch of trades that you've been looking to get, this is a great time to kind of stockpile them together, especially with the holidays coming up. Free shipping for get books for your friends and things like that, and get them at a great discount and save some more money on the shipping as well. So very cool. Thank you, InStockTrades.com, for those great discounts. Our next episode, we're going to kind of continue the theme that we've been doing lately, where we're going to be obviously following all the Bat books like we've been saying that we're going to do, but we're also going to be just picking random books that have been coming out, some of the high-profile ones and some of the lower-profile books, the books that, we don't usually get to talk to on the show and chat about them. So, and then continuing with some listener voicemails as well. We're going to be doing this theme for the next few episodes. There's a lot of books that I think are out right now that just deserve some notice, and, we never seem to be able to get to all of them, and we're still not going to be able to. But we're going to kind of jump around the DC universe, like I said, the higher profile stuff and some of the lower profile books as well, just to kind of enjoy chatting comics. And we're going to be continuing this theme for the next few weeks of just trying to kind of jump around the DC universe and chat about some of the great things that are going on and the great books that are out there. A lot of creative team changes, but even the ones that have been keeping stable creative teams. Talking about some of those books too, and one of the great things that are happening as well. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan. What you do to me, Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just